It all kicks off under a gorgeous starry sky, bringing back memories of that one epic meteor shower from back in the day. The kid's mom swears up and down that a miracle would definitely find him at the perfect moment. That meteor shower lit up the night in the most amazing way, but sadly it also marked a pretty heartbreaking goodbye. After that moment out in the field, Hoshizora admits he never saw his mom again. Cut to him all by himself on an isolated hill, setting up his telescope in the dead of night. 10 long years have passed since his mom vanished without a single trace. Ever since that fateful day, our boy has been eagerly waiting for that space phenomenon to make a comeback. With his eye glued to the lens, he's holding out hope that the event is finally going to happen again. Staring into the dark void of space, our MC reveals that he still totally believes in miracles. Out of nowhere, a hand pops up offering him an ice-cold sports drink. Seiyu gives her buddy props for his hard work, pointing out that he came out alone again and totally should have texted her. Surprised by the pop-in, our guy asks what she's doing out here, warning her that it's sketchy to be out this late. A little awkwardly, the girl reminds him that they're supposed to be working on a super important joint research project. They had promised to use this school project as their golden ticket to get into the same college in the future. The student gently nods along with the project idea, but then the vibe of the memory takes a dark turn. A while back, an arrogant trespasser barged into their club room, yelling to see if anyone was around. Her squad started trashing their expensive gear without a second thought, slowly taking over the room. Before they even knew what hit them, the bullies had already swiped the club's research funds. To make a bad situation entirely worse, the intruders basically turned their study spot into the gang's personal hangout. Snapping back to the present, Hoshizora calms Seiyu down, letting her know he managed to change the bank account password. Right at that exact second, a bright flash suddenly pops in the air, completely grabbing our MC's attention. Thinking he just spotted a real shooting star, he quickly realizes it's actually just the glowing cherry of a cigarette. Panicking at the sight, he tries to act fast, knowing how huge the mess will be if that thing hits his equipment. Unfortunately, the lit ash drops right onto his back, burning a hole straight through his clothes. Seiyu lets out a panicked scream while our guy freezes, realizing exactly what's going down. Surrounded in the dark, the student is absolutely shook to find out the gang tracked down their secret hideout. The ringleader Nanju mocks the duo, bragging that she knew exactly where to find them and asking if the losers are dating now. Her meathead sidekick steps up looking furious, demanding the new password and threatening to knock the kid's teeth out. Feeling the crushing pressure, Hoshizora stammers, completely tense and having zero clue how to handle the heavy vibe. Mustering up some serious courage, he yells that he's not telling them a thing, stepping up to protect the school's hard-earned budget. Without any warning, Nanju delivers a vicious kick right to the student's fragile stomach. Stepping ruthlessly on the downed kid, she gives him a very dark warning to watch his mouth. Adding insult to injury, the leader promises she's gonna fix his rebellious attitude personally. Tossed on the dirt, our MC curls up, grabbing his stomach as he tries to walk off the intense hit. Right after, the villain pivots to her next target and completely blindsides Seiyu, shoving the girl hard to the ground. Seeing the cheap shot, Hoshizora jumps up in a panic and rushes over, demanding to know what her problem is. Yanking the helpless girl's hair, Nanju gives a twisted laugh, bragging that her boyfriend was just tossed in the trash. Then the sidekick grabs his friend by force and tries to pull at her shirt, sending the duo into an instant panic. Completely frozen in shock, the student locks up for a second watching his best friend get bullied by these creeps. In that critical moment, he flashes back to a peaceful day when she confessed how much she loved astronomy. She was super hyped when she suggested they start the club together at school. Rocking a massive smile, she promised that they'd both get into the same college, no matter what it takes. Back to the harsh reality of the woods, the girl struggles desperately while Nanju complains about how annoying she's being. Laughing at the struggle, the bully claims that difficult targets just need a little extra brute force. But suddenly the big guy's head whips back, bleeding after taking a heavy hit that split his skin. The makeshift weapon was the heavy base of the telescope, now shattered on the ground after clocking the bully in the face. With hot battle damage running down his cheek, the brute mumbles, totally dazed and trying to process the hit. Still holding his throwing arm out, the kid screams at the top of his lungs for the guy to let his friend go. Caught off guard by the loser's sudden burst of bravery, the bully just stands there blankly, registering the pain. Milliseconds later, the guy goes absolutely ballistic and charges, cursing out the meddling kid. Knowing he's at a massive physical disadvantage, Hoshizora screams with everything he has for the girl to run right now. While the furious bully grabs our MC, Seiyu takes off crying loudly, yelling that she's calling the cops. Even while getting roughed up, the student stays focused on the goal, buying time for his master plan to work. Finding a tiny opening, our guy books it straight into the forest to play human bait. Running for his life down the dark trail, he pushes through the bushes with nothing but the stars lighting the way. His heavy breathing echoes through the isolated woods as he tries to shake off his dangerous stalkers. Natural fatigue starts making his legs feel like lead, but pure fear refuses to let his body slow down. Sweating bullets and pushed to his absolute limit, he realizes with pure dread that he might actually get a game over this time. Devastated by his own bad luck, the young guy mentally asks the universe what he did to deserve this mess. The only pure wish in his heart was to keep chasing stars, holding on to the sweet dream of reuniting with his family. With absolutely zero gas left in the tank, the runner's legs give out completely, and he collapses in the middle of the brush. Staring blankly into nothing, he accepts defeat, thinking everything would just be easier if he logged out of life entirely. In that exact millisecond of despair, a massive flash of light comes out of nowhere, tearing through the pitch-black sky. The kid tilts his head up, totally mind-blown, trying to process the surreal glow raining down on him. A colossal sphere of flames rips through Earth's atmosphere, crashing at insane speed straight toward the forest floor. Totally losing his mind at the apocalyptic scene, our MC lets out a scream, having no clue where to even run. The roar becomes deafening the second the violent meteor slams into the ground, completely blasting the terrain apart. The fierce impact sends out a destructive shockwave of light, leaving only the kid's tiny silhouette bracing against the blast. As the cosmic dust settles, the outline of an unknown woman appears right in the middle of the crater. Completely losing it over what's happening, the student covers his eyes with shaking hands. Right in the middle of the flames still scorching the earth, the mysterious survivor just sits there without a single scratch. With an angelic look of pure confusion, she blinks slowly, trying to figure out where she just landed. Tossed roughly onto the grass, Hoshizora sits paralyzed, staring at this magical figure surrounded by intense fire. A heavy, dead silence takes over the ruined clearing as the two lock eyes without blinking. The human's stressed-out brain completely blue screens trying to process the shock and the fact that the girl is missing her wardrobe entirely. Distracted by the wild situation, Hoshizora hears a scream from the woods and realizes his friend is in deep trouble. Panicking over the urgency, our guy whips off his own jacket as fast as humanly possible. He holds the jacket out to the mystery girl, begging her to just put it on for a second. The newcomer just stares at the thick fabric, having absolutely zero clue what it even is. Super innocently, she asks straight up how you even install this kind of gear. The student just blue screens for a second, totally shocked by her lack of basic knowledge. The alien girl keeps staring at him, patiently waiting for some kind of tutorial. But suddenly a voice echoes through the trees, letting him know the bullies have caught up. In total panic mode, our MC begs the stranger to just stand up and T-pose. Amamiya bursts out of the bushes looking furious, screaming that the meddling kid is officially toast. Playing bodyguard, Hoshizora jumps in front with his arms wide open, blocking the big guy's view. The bully stops dead in his tracks, weirded out by the nerd's ridiculous defensive stance. Sweating bullets, the kid screams desperately for the guy not to look because he's changing clothes. The bully questions the kid's sanity, asking who the heck he's talking to in the middle of the woods. To the student's absolute surprise, the spot right behind him in the crater is completely empty. Amamiya grabs Hoshizora by the collar with pure rage. The kid stammers, trying to explain that a meteor literally just crashed and a girl in her birthday suit popped out. Still dangling in the air, he tries to justify that he was just lending her his jacket. The meathead just glares at his victim with a look of pure disgust and zero patience. The bottom of the crater remains nothing but scorched earth and silence. Annoyed by the excuses, the bully tells him to cut the nonsense. The guy shoves the kid hard, giving him 5 seconds to hand over the money's password. Winding up a heavy punch, the bully starts a ruthless countdown. At that exact moment, a colossal pillar of purple energy violently explodes between them. The bad guys freeze in absolute terror, while our MC realizes the mystery girl has made a comeback. A massive, shadowy silhouette starts forming right in the center of the intense magic fire. The sinister figure flexes its muscular arms, violently clearing the energy away. The student's eyes bug out in pure terror at the sight of this absolute monster. An absurdly strong, giant woman comes stomping out of the purple flames. The bullies are completely paralyzed, shaking in their boots in front of this bizarre entity. Watching the terrifying scene, Hashizora realizes it really is the same girl, just scaled up to boss fight proportions. The massive entity opens her glowing eyes, glaring at the group with a totally menacing aura. One of her pupils locks in, glowing red like a lethal targeting system. A crosshair pops up in the creature's vision, scanning the humans in the area. The main target locks straight onto Hashizora, marking him as priority number 1 for deletion. With a deep voice, the shadowy figure demands to know who's holding the initial power. Having absolutely no clue what's going on, the student asks what on earth she's talking about. In the blink of an eye, an invisible attack completely takes the two goons out of the equation in a flashy move. The impact sends a massive shockwave everywhere, grazing right past our terrified MC's face. The guys hit the dirt, completely knocked out of the game, leaving Amamiya and the kid totally shook. The nerd is glued to the spot, trying to process the absolute wipeout that just happened. Wrapped in a soft golden glow, the first mystery girl touches down gracefully on the dirt. The kid stammers in pure panic, realizing that the slicing attack came straight from her. He can barely catch his breath, totally blown away by the unreal speed of the strike. Without any warning, the giant purple entity's arm gets sliced right off, sending a massive shockwave of energy everywhere. The giant limb crashes heavily onto the grass, caving in the dirt right in front of the student. Covered in the mess from the battle, Hashizora drops to his knees, totally traumatized and frozen. The giant monster stares at her own damaged stump, super salty that she didn't manage to delete her target. The golden girl casually steps in front of the human to shield him from the colossal threat. Rocking the kid's jacket, the girl dashes at her enemy with terrifying speed. Catching on to the aggressive push, the purple entity gears up to counter the lethal attack. Sprawled on the dirty grass, the student watches his savior like a hawk. He mutters to himself, confirming it really is the exact same girl from a few minutes ago. Scanning her tiny opponent, the giant concludes there's no way this girl is a regular Earth human. The mystery girl casually strolls inside a magic circle, radiating a fierce aura. Overflowing with rage, the colossal creature announces she's going to take out this intruder first. A massive blast of destructive energy is fired from the giant hand straight at the girl. Without even breaking a sweat, she dodges the fatal beam with insane agility. Her delicate feet touch the ground, kicking up intense sparks of pure fire magic. Capitalizing on the perfect opening, the warrior lands a brutal flying kick right to the giant's face. Thanks to the devastating impact, the dark entity is thrown violently backward, totally losing her balance. After the critical hit, the fighter floats smoothly back down to the forest floor. Her eyes glow intensely, showing absolute determination to take down this freak of nature. Regaining her footing, the giant entity reveals a twisted face covered in furious eyes. The young warrior's arm bursts into flames, unleashing pure high-tier fire. Corrupted black flames try to trap the girl's body in a deadly snare, but totally fail. The monster declares in a demonic voice that the weak human belongs exclusively to her. The colossal figure summons a massive black sphere of energy, looking exactly like a black hole. A doomsday-level explosion completely eats the forest in a flash of pure annihilation. The one-screen landscape turns into a sea of burning embers and smoking ash. Right in the middle of this fiery hellscape, the little girl is still standing, completely unharmed. But she whips her head around looking worried, sensing that something went terribly wrong behind her. Walking through the wrecked zone, the warrior finds our MC's body sprawled on the grass. The girl gently lifts the kid's battered face, trying softly to wake him up. She hugs the human's limp body in a moment of quiet heartbreak under the moonlight. A glowing crater goes straight through the student's chest, leaving her to just pray for a miracle. The fatal wound on the kid's chest starts glowing with a mysterious energy, sealing up the heavy damage. Holding him tight, the girl swears she's going to keep her promise. She watches the human's recovery with bright, focused eyes under the moonlight. Swearing a solemn oath to the starry night, the alien declares she's gonna protect him no matter what. High up in the dark sky, the meteor shower starts falling again, lighting up the pitch-black forest. The redhead girl confirms that a real miracle is finally heading his way. Right then, the traumatizing memory of that severed arm bursts back into the kid's brain. Waking up with a massive jump, Hashizora screams in absolute terror in his bed, sweating bullets from the scare. Freaking out over the vivid flashback, he pats his own arm just to make sure it's still attached. Panting hard, the student tries to chill out and process what the heck just happened. Rolling over, he notices the mystery girl sleeping peacefully, completely bundled up in his jacket. Hit by pure shock, our guy scrambles backward, slamming his back against the bedroom wall. Woken up by the racket, the visitor rubs her eyes, complaining about all the yelling this early. Annoyed by how chill she is, he points a finger, demanding to know who she is and what she's doing in his house. Still half asleep, the alien blinks in confusion, trying to figure out why the jacket's owner is overreacting so hard. Feeling super awkward about the view, the kid covers his face, swearing he didn't see a single thing. Trying to play off his panic, he makes up an excuse that his vision is terrible without his glasses. But plot twist, the image of the girl in front of him is crystal clear to his wide-open eyes. The student is totally baffled, realizing his bad eyesight just miraculously cured itself overnight. Trying to focus on literally anything else, Hashizora feels his face burning up over her lack of wardrobe. Quickly looking away, he begs the visitor to figure out how to zip that jacket up. Out of nowhere, the redhead leans right into his ear and whispers his full name. Spooked by the info drop, the guy immediately asks how she knows his identity. The memory of last night in the woods hits him like a truck, replaying the exact moment they met. Shook by the realization, he finally understands that all that crazy stuff wasn't just a bad dream. Flexing her confidence, the alien reminds him she came down to Earth for the sole purpose of protecting him. An incredibly awkward silence fills the room for a few seconds while our guy processes his new reality. Killing the tension fast, the student jumps out of bed, announcing he needs to get to school ASAP. Ignoring the alien craziness, he throws on his school uniform as fast as he can in his room. Fully dressed, Hashizora pretends everything is totally normal to try and escape this massive headache. Desperate to run away from this absurd situation, the kid bolts straight for the bedroom door. Heart-pounding, his only goal right now is to ditch the girl who is clearly not from this planet. With a quick swipe, he grabs the doorknob, praying he can open it in time to make his getaway. But before he can even turn the lock, the alien leaps and bear hugs him from behind with insane strength. Thanks to the heavy impact, the student's face gets ruthlessly smashed right into the wooden door. Keeping the kid pinned, the girl warns him in a dead serious tone that it's way too dangerous for him to wander around alone. She warns him about the multiple space threats currently hunting him down, squeezing the hug even tighter. Super uncomfortable with the personal space invasion, Hashizora tries to wiggle free, questioning this whole crazy alien story. Suddenly, the girl's grip completely vanishes, and she starts sliding right down his back. Unable to stay on her feet, the redhead collapses heavily onto the floor right behind the confused student. Freaked out by the sudden blackout, he frantically asks what just happened to his bodyguard. Completely drained, the traveler mumbles that her battery is at 0 because she hasn't eaten in months. Staring at the dramatic scene on the floor, the guy sighs in relief, realizing the major emergency was just her being starving. A few minutes later, the student serves up a massive plate of omuras for his guest in the kitchen. Without a second thought, the girl attacks the meal, taking a giant bite straight out of the hot food. Trying to civilize the moment, Hashizora grabs a spoon, patiently showing her how silverware works. He explains in detail that the tool is used to cut the soft, yellow part of the food. Showing off the practical use, the kid scoops up the rice, filling along with the egg to make a perfect bite. Unable to resist the demo, the girl takes the food right out of his hand, chewing away happily. But in a bizarre fail, the alien chomps down on the actual metal spoon, wrecking the tip with her teeth. The girl casually complains that the hard part tastes really bad, making the chef lose his mind. Checking the late time on his phone, the student accepts defeat, knowing he's already missed the school day. Totally oblivious to his academic problems, the guest keeps stuffing her cheeks with the delicious plate. Scratching his cheek thoughtfully, the guy tries to figure out how his busted eyesight got cured out of nowhere. Staring at the mystery eater, the main question taking over his brain is who exactly these enemies are. The terrifying image of the giant monster from the forest comes back to haunt his tired mind. Our guy remembers the oppressive, lethal aura of that dark entity that almost took him out with zero effort. With her mouth full, the redhead confirms that the giant freak was just one of the many coming to hunt him. Putting all the loose pieces together, the young guy analyzes the absolute madness his life has become in a matter of hours. Replaying the absurd events, he remembers the exact moment the magical figure popped out of the crater without a stitch of clothing. Following the logic, the student recalls having to cover the traveler up with his own jacket. Right after that, the real colossal threat showed up completely unbothered by her lack of clothes, destroying everything in her path with magic. The violent magic strike slicing off the freak's arm flashes back like a gory highlight reel in his human brain. Shaking with nerves, the kid hugs himself as the trauma of that terrifying night comes creeping back. Breaking the shock trance, the redhead leans in close, shouting his name across the table. Completely caught off guard by the push, Hashizora feels his cheeks burn up from pure embarrassment. Satisfied with the meal, the girl stands up, wiping her mouth and announcing that it's time for formal introductions. Bursting with natural confidence, she reveals her official combat ID as MGS. Striking a sparkly victory pose, the space warrior doubles down on her sacred mission to keep him safe. Still a bit lost in thought, the kid repeats the word protection, trying to wrap his head around his new normal. Super hyped, the traveler demands that he trust her way more than anyone else on the planet. Intrigued by the robotic title, the human figures that this bizarre string of numbers is basically her name. Patiently explaining Earth customs, our guy points out that long barcodes don't really work as names here. To fix this cultural clash, the student suggests coming up with a temporary, easy-to-say nickname. Using astronomy for some divine inspiration, he snaps his fingers, hyped to officially dub her Shiho. Explaining the lore, Hashizora mentions that Shiho is just the word star read backward. The alien throws her hands in the air, absolutely glowing, celebrating that she finally has an Earth name. Totally drained by the whole ordeal, the student just watches the girl's hype. He steps out of the room, shutting the door behind him to just get a breather. Leaning against the hallway wall, the kid tries to process the fact that there's an actual alien in there. The biggest issue is that physically, she looks way too human and is honestly drop-dead gorgeous. But her absolute zero concept of personal space or modesty is giving him a full-blown nervous breakdown. He wonders why she crossed the whole galaxy to protect him and realizes he has a million questions to ask. Focusing on the right now, our MC stares at the door, plotting his next move. The absolute top priority right now is getting the guests some proper underwear ASAP. Just picturing having to go into a store to buy those kinds of unmentionables makes him want to die of embarrassment. But knowing he has no other choice, the young guy decides he's just gonna have to bite the bullet. Suddenly, Seiyu trips and eats dirt right outside his house, dropping her glasses. Our guy rushes over to his friend, worried, asking what she's doing all the way out here. Furious and in tears, his classmate yells that she was losing her mind because he ghosted school today. Trying to chill out, the girl says she needs to show him something and suggests they go inside to talk. In absolute panic mode, our MC blocks the door, trying to smooth-talk her into going to a cafe instead. Finding him super sus, Seiyu ignores the excuse, claiming his house is always a mess anyway and she's thirsty. The door suddenly swings open to reveal Shiho, who asks who's there and warns about the danger outside. The visitor freezes in her tracks, trying to compute who this random girl wearing nothing but her friend's jacket is. Totally suspicious, the classmate asks if this weirdo is even human. Hearing that word, the alien instantly summons intense magic flames in her hand. Assuming the worst, she figures the intruder is just another enemy trying to hunt down her VIP. Freaking out over the incoming disaster, the student screams at the top of his lungs for her to stop. Seiyu stands there paralyzed with terror as the lethal fire gets dangerously close to her face. Hashizora jumps in the middle, talking a mile a minute to explain that the newcomer is his only friend. Still shaken, the girl with glasses starts putting the pieces together, thinking back to last night. The memory of the meteor shower violently crashing into the earth floods her brain. She starts thinking about what that terrifying cosmic event actually meant. Keeping her aggressive stance, Shiho points a finger, declaring she's absolutely not trusting this human. The bodyguard gives a strict warning that anyone standing near the kid could be a threat in disguise. Right then, the traumatizing flashback of the cowardly attack in the woods hits hard. The kid goes cold, realizing just how sketchy their situation was the night before. The violent memory serves as a glaring red flag about the very real risks surrounding them. Out of nowhere, the alien totally flips her mood, giving the visitor a hug and deciding she's 100% human. Relieved to have dodged a murder charge on his front porch, our MC drops to his knees. He rushes to support his shaking friend, suggesting they get inside before things get any worse. With a furious glare, the kid shoots daggers at his reckless houseguest while she just smiles innocently. Unbothered by the silent scolding, the redhead turns around and casually strolls back inside. A few minutes later, a glass of cold water is served to help the human calm her nerves. Now in the living room, the host hands the drink to his classmate sitting on the couch. Rubbing the back of his neck awkwardly, he apologizes for lying and warns her that the truth is gonna sound insane. Without missing a beat, Seiyu states with total confidence that the mystery girl is definitely an alien. The student nearly jumps out of his skin at how fast his friend figured out his biggest secret. Pointing at the window, he asks how the intruder got up to the 4th floor, and the girl just gives a proud smirk. Adjusting her glasses, the human girl locks all her attention on the quirky figure sitting across from her. Radiating pure confidence, Shiho soaks up the curious stares in the bright sunlight from the window. With the squad assembled, the host wraps up the full story about the chaotic events in the forest. Massaging his temples, our guy vents about how hard this whole space drama is to swallow. But his friend totally ignores the tension, breaking into a massive smile with her eyes shining in pure fascination. The student just stares at the girl's fanboy moment, completely baffled by her hype reaction. Possessed by the spirit of an astronomy nerd, she claps her hands together, amazed by this intergalactic discovery. Grilling the visitor with questions about her home planet, she finds out the place is called Misha. Worried about his classmate's sanity, Hashizora reminds her that she was literally almost turned into ash 5 minutes ago. Flexing max optimism, Seiyu just shrugs it off, claiming this kind of crazy stuff just happens. Defeated by mental exhaustion, the guy sighs, accepting there's no fighting her hype train. He gently rests his hand on the alien bodyguard's head to grab her attention. Dropping the joke tone, he warns her that he has a normal school life, and she can't just go around attacking random people. Annoyed by the lecture, the warrior grumbles, pointing out she's got her own problems to deal with. Giving a quick cosmic physics lesson, she reveals that every planet gives off unique dimensional waves in its locals. The alien points out that Earthlings have their own frequencies that she's supposed to pick up automatically. The catch is her body hasn't adapted yet, leaving her sensory radar way too weak to work right. Grasping how bad that is, the human deduces that the warrior literally can't tell a local apart from an invader. Flashing a creepy smile, the redhead announces she's just going to delete anyone who looks slightly sus. Sinking into deep despair, the kid screams, begging her not to start a neighborhood massacre. Ignoring the lethal threat, Seiyu slaps a flyer on the table and suggests they lay low for a bit. The pamphlet shows blurry photos of the two of them, tagging them as prime suspects for the mountain fire. The girl with glasses explains she ran over specifically to warn him about this police bulletin. She breaks down how, when the cops drove her back to the woods earlier that morning, everything had completely changed. The whole area was ablaze, and the security cams only caught the two of them at the scene. Panicking, Hashizora tries to find an out, asking if maybe the delinquent gang started the fire and bolted. Looking super grim, his friend shoots down the theory, reminding him of the crushing attack at the crater. Our MC finally puts the pieces together and realizes the bullies were totally taken out by the giant monster. Far away from there, the heavy footsteps of a mysterious young woman echo down an empty hallway. A colorful beach ball rolls smoothly across the floor until it stops right at the girl's sneakers. The mystery girl gently crouches down in the hallway and hands the colorful ball back to the kid. Thanking her for the quick assist, the little boy in pajamas takes his toy back, totally blind to the heavy aura around her. Right then, the memory of that alien entity wiping out her goons in the woods comes back to haunt Nanju. While the little patient walks off chill, the criminal resumes her stroll down the quiet hospital corridors. Bothered by the flashback, the girl refuses to accept that her whole crew got packed up so easily out in the wild. Inside the hospital room, one of the bullies groggily complains that his lights went out right after taking a hit from the nerd. The bedridden partner perks up the second the door swings open and their boss walks in for a surprise visit. Without any warning, Nanju leaps aggressively onto one of the patients, pinning him to the bed. The bruised-up goon is stunned, asking if this crazy attack has something to do with what he just said. Using her leverage, the intruder leans in, dropping crushing pressure onto the helpless guy. Sensing some serious danger, the patient screams in pure terror, begging his buddy in the other bed for help. The other gang member gulps hard, shakily asking what the heck got into their boss. Unleashing a dark aura and glowing eyes, the leader paralyses both her allies with monstrous fury. Breaking the thick tension, a nurse casually opens the door, calling the boys by their names. The healthcare worker freezes, completely lost when she realizes the patients vanished into thin air. The empty medical bed with messy sheets is the only proof that anyone was even in there. Trying to process the magic disappearing act, the nurse jumps out of her skin when she hears a noise behind her. Right behind the worker, the trio of bullies pops up wrapped in dense purple energy, announcing they're checking out. Shaking like a leaf, the woman turns around slowly, asking where they got such a crazy idea. Getting grabbed roughly by the shoulder, she hears the big guy insist the crew is in perfect shape. Desperate to get away, the poor woman begs them to let go because they are strictly on bed rest. Playing her last card, the medic grabs her radio, threatening to call security that exact second. Before she can even hit the button, creepy wires dart out, grabbing the poor nurse by the neck without a second thought. The radio drops from her weak grip and smacks the hospital floor, completely useless now. Radiating cruel coldness, the possessed woman repeats slowly that the squad is already fully healed. Using her own extended hair as shadow weapons, Nanju hoists the choking nurse into the air. The hospital worker completely passes out fast, and her body drops hard against the floor. A disturbing silence takes over, leaving only the woman's limp body tossed on the cold tiles. Acting like absolutely nothing happened, the bullies turn their backs on the crime scene and just walk away. Leading the creepy march, the villain cheers, saying she can't wait to reunite with their boy Amamiya. Cutting to another moment from last night, Nanju is seen running in absolute panic down the dark forest trail. Panting hard from the sprint, the runaway remembers the deafening boom that made her check out the crash site. Hitting the epicenter of the mess, she catches the colossal magic creature standing right in the middle of total destruction. Hiding carefully behind a tree, the criminal shakes with fear, realizing the monster just deleted her crew. The image of her other gang member flashes in her mind, bringing the dreadful thought that they might all be gone. Pressured by the surreal threat, the human goes back to sprinting like a maniac through the brush, lit up by a red glow. Tearing through the night sky, a second meteor packed with space energy violently crashes into the dirt. Out of the leftover purple energy, an alien black sludge sneaks out, hunting for the closest target. Catching the weird sound right behind her, the bully picks up the pace, trying to shake whatever that thing is. With zero chance of escape, the shadow slime launches itself through the air straight for the girl's back. Caught off guard by the speed, the leader spins around in pure shock, trying to process the cheap shot. The blob smacks the victim dead in the face, forcing its way inside to hijack her body. Snapping back to the present chaos in the hospital hallway, the gang leaves the nurse's body in the dust. With her mind totally hijacked by the parasite, Nanju focuses on her main quest, tracking down their missing target in the city. A glowing gem lights up the dark void, confirming the hunter can pinpoint her target's exact location. Cutting through the city night, the classic sound of police sirens echoes wildly through the massive skyscrapers. Strutting through the busy streets, the glowing-eyed woman makes a mental promise that she'll catch up with her target real soon. Back in the chill vibe of our MC's house, the infamous police wanted poster is still sitting right on the coffee table. Breaking down her conspiracy theory, Seiyu completely rules out arson, swearing the crew got wiped by the giant alien freak. Hashizora is still scratching his head over the missing enemies, wondering what kind of tragic end those troublemakers actually met. His studious friend nods along, pointing out the gang skipped class today and praying they just stay off the map forever. Wanting to dodge this heavy drama, the host changes the subject, grumbling that their current crisis is finding clothes for Shiho. Totally against the field trip idea, the space warrior squeezes the kid's arm, telling him he's banned from leaving without an escort. Curious about cosmic powers, the guest asks straight up if the alien doesn't have some shrinking or disguise skill. The galactic fighter immediately shatters those expectations, clearly stating she has zero clue how to do transformation tricks. Seiyu goes into full panic mode, remembering those classic horror movies about parasites crawling into mouths to steal bodies. Freaked out by the creepy topic, our guy swerves the conversation, asking what the standard fashion trend is back on her planet. Ignoring the complex rules of Earth modesty, the warrior taps her chin, wondering if clothes are really that big of a deal. Hit by a sudden spark of genius, Shiho jumps back super hyped, claiming she just remembered a fix that's pretty close. Ripping open the jacket like it's the most normal thing in the world, the alien flashes her bare skin underneath, thinking she totally solved the adaptation problem. The jump scare is so real that both Earthlings scream at the exact same time, whipping their heads away to avoid looking at her total lack of common sense. Firing up her magic, the bodyguard spawns a skin-tight battle armor right onto her body and strikes a proud pose. Hours later, the trio decides to risk a safe outing and ends up window shopping at a massive local mall. Planted in the aisle of the women's section, Hashizora quietly waits out the fitting room trial. Regretting the wait, his friend sighs, complaining that she totally messed up by not going in to help the ET. Right then, the curtain twitches, signaling that their exotic shopper is finally done with the process. Shiho steps out rocking a standard white school button-up, but clearly having major issues with how the thing fits. Struggling against the tight fabric, the alien complains loudly that she is completely out of air. The two students freeze, watching the material stretch as the warrior visibly shakes from the insane effort of handling the squeeze. The tension on the seams hits maximum overdrive, violently stressing the tiny plastic buttons holding it together. Unable to handle the insane stretch, the middle button pops clean off the shirt, launching through the air like a bullet. Hoshizora ducks in a panic, dodging purely on reflex as the tiny lethal projectile zips right past his head. With the shirt torn open and finally able to breathe, the cosmic girl lets out a loud sigh, celebrating the upgrade in comfort. The kid's brain completely short-circuits, trying to process the sheer absurdity of living out a comic book cliché in real life. Absolutely triggered by her buddy's fascinated stare, Seiyu grabs him by the collar, dragging the nerd far away from the visual hazard. The store clerk awkwardly cuts through the tension, politely asking if they'll be buying the item. The worker kindly points them toward the register so the shoppers can finish checking out. Dying of embarrassment, Hoshizora hands over his credit card while stuttering a quick apology. Once outside, Shiho shows off her new casual fit, while our MC sighs in relief that he actually got her dressed. The girl's exotic beauty instantly turns the heads of two guys walking past them. A bunch of people nearby start whispering in awe, comparing the redhead to a famous celebrity. The student tries to play it cool while hearing rumors that he must be the lucky boyfriend of that stunner. Watching everything closely, Seiyu scowls, catching a heavy wave of jealousy over all the attention her friend is getting. Right then, a girl with glasses in the crowd recognizes her classmate walking with the foreigner. The women nearby gossip, trying to figure out if the redhead is just his little sister or a girl from his class. Hearing the whispers about them looking like a couple makes the nerdy friend even more annoyed by the romantic vibe. Clueless about Earth rules, the alien tugs at her collar, complaining that this outfit has 0 defensive stats. The guy patiently tries to explain that clothes on Earth are mostly just a cover-up for social reasons. Blown away by the info drop, the space warrior asks in awe if this custom is really that big of a deal. The learning moment gets suddenly interrupted by a female voice calling the student's name out loud in the street. With her eyes shining with joy, the bodyguard promises she'll take good care of the clothes since they were a gift from him. Totally disarmed by how sweet the alien is acting, the kid turns beet red, awkwardly accepting the thanks. Seiyu covers her own blushing face, completely frustrated that she's actually finding their dynamic way too cute. Trying to escape the romantic tension, our MC suggests they grab some food, instantly hyping up the redhead. The trio decides to head upstairs and grab a booth at a super busy family restaurant. Taking advantage of the break, the nerdy student vents that her initial hype has turned into a really bad gut feeling. Worried about the future, she asks if the visitor is gonna ditch Earth when she sorts out all this space drama. Shaking with anxiety in her seat, the human pushes to know more about these dangerous enemies hunting her friend. The Earth girl wants a detailed breakdown of what these threatening creatures actually look like. Looking thoughtful, Shiho rests her chin on her hand, pointing out that the universe is massive and has a ton of different species. She explains that some invaders look like normal humans, while others are creepy parasites that can shape-shift. Giving a dead serious look, the warrior warns that the threat could be perfectly hiding literally anywhere. The vibe at the table gets heavy when she suggests that anyone in the restaurant could be a monster in disguise. Stressed about the constant danger, Hoshizora demands to know why on earth these things are after him and how they even found him. Trying to figure out the monster's motives, the kid demands clear answers, but jumps when his partner suddenly touches his chest. Releasing a soft magic glow from her fingertip, the alien claims she can clearly feel the hidden power inside him. The student's chest starts glowing intensely with a mysterious golden energy right underneath his button-up shirt. Completely shook by the light coming out of his own body, he backs up, having no clue what this bizarre force is. The warrior explains that this attractive energy is exactly what the space invaders are desperately hunting for. Suddenly, Nanju pops up behind the booth, resting her hands on the kid's shoulders and whispering that she found him. Our guy jumps in his seat, terrified as he recognizes the gang leader who ambushed him in the woods. Trapping the kid at the table, the blonde states in a creepy, calm voice that the crew came to talk about yesterday. While the human has a full-blown panic attack over the ambush, Shiho just keeps happily eating her dessert. To everyone's absolute shock, the trio of bullies throws themselves onto the restaurant floor, screaming for forgiveness. The bizarre scene grabs the attention of the other customers, who start whispering, trying to figure out why they're humiliating themselves. Dying of embarrassment from the public scene, Hoshizora begs the troublemakers to stop doing that right now. Still on her knees, the leader claims she had a nightmare where the student got brutally wiped off the map by a monster. Showing some really weird emotion, the former enemy confesses the dream made her realize how vital he is to everyone. Seiyu whispers in panic to the alien, pointing out that these bullies would never act this humble on their own. Flashing a dark confidence and sharp fangs, the bodyguard agrees, saying she can finally sense what they really are. Wasting zero time, the warrior easily vaults over the table, ready to throw hands right in the middle of the restaurant. The possessed leader looks up with a totally chill expression, showing zero fear of the incoming lethal attack. With her hands glowing with pure magic power, the alien cheerfully announces she's about to delete the infiltrated threat. In a burst of intense flames, she equips her lethal fire armor, ready to roast the cruel invaders. The customers around them pull out their phones in awe, thinking the magic transformation is just some kind of movie stunt. Panicking over the incoming property damage, Hashizora screams, demanding his partner stop, causing a scene in public. Completely ignoring her VIP's begging, the redhead charges in relentlessly, leaving a burning trail on the polished floor. The gang members just watch the flaming warrior rush them at top speed without even trying to dodge. The alien's burning arm tears through the air in a deadly strike aimed straight at the fake humans' chests. Going all out, Shiho grabs the big guy's torso, clearly planning to punch a hole straight through the enemy. The student and his friends' jaws drop when they realize her magic hand phased right through his flesh without leaving a scratch. With a creepy expression, Nanju grabs the flaming arm that just phased through her buddy like it was thin air. Keeping her cool, the villain sarcastically explains they only came here to try and keep things peaceful. Baffled by the enemy's unreal durability, Seiyu and the student freeze while the crowd keeps recording everything. The possessed goon stares at the heroes with pitch-black eyes, coldly stating he doesn't want to drag this chat out. Holding her hand out like a boss, Nanju demands they hand over the kids so they can leave without a fuss. Rejecting the cowardly demand, the warrior lands a devastating kick straight into the possessed blonde's smug face. The bystanders stumble back in shock at the very real violence, finally realizing this is definitely not a staged prank. The heavy hit sends the enemy leader crashing through the tables, wrecking the restaurant furniture with a loud crash. Radiating pure fiery rage, Shiho loudly declares that the earthling belongs exclusively to her. Giving a deadly glare, the cosmic bodyguard swears she will never hand her VIP over to these parasites. Sprawled in the wreckage, the blonde girl stays totally still as the dust settles in the super tense room. Ignoring the pain from the brutal hit, the villain slowly starts getting up from the pile of broken wood and glass. The enemy's face is covered in a sinister shadow, showing off the true corrupted nature living inside the human. Wiping the blood off her face with a smirk, the parasite insults the brave hero, calling her a stupidly selfish brat. In a massive burst of dark energy, the shadowy entity arrogantly asks if the redhead really thinks she runs the show here. The crushing pressure of the evil aura blasts Hashizora and the others backward, shattering windows and causing mass panic. Consumed by absolute terror, the customers scream and scramble out of the building trying to save themselves. Huddled near the busted window, our MC watches the stampede, having no clue what to do next. Right in the middle of the ruined dining room, Shiho stands tall, ready to tank the full fury of the threat. Laughing hysterically in the rubble, Nanju declares that everyone here can bite the dust, except Amamiya. Pointing firmly, the possessed leader says the student is coming back to their home planet with the squad. Completely lost, Hashizora questions the madness, while the enemy explains she's gonna stick him in a special growth tank until he matures. The guy starts freaking out, asking what the heck a tank is and wondering why every alien in the universe is after him. Locking onto the human, the parasite reveals in a dark tone that the real reason for the hunt is his primordial power. She explains that this is the core energy of the expanding universe from the Big Bang, and it's going to fully wake up once he hits maturity. The dark entity predicts this insane force is going to become unbelievably broken in the future. Full of ego, the villain claims that with that kind of power in her hands, she'll finally reach her goal and then busts out laughing. Shutting down the enemy's hype immediately, Shiho shoots daggers at the blonde and tells her to get out of her way. Surprised by his partner's aggressive push, the kid watches her nervously, waiting for the next move. Meanwhile, the gang's two meatheads prep for an attack, warning that playtime is over and they're gonna wipe the duo out. With her body radiating pure flames, the space warrior figures she doesn't need to hold back her punches anymore. Freaking out over the lethal intent, the student begs his bodyguard not to take the humans out, suggesting she just extract the aliens instead. Casually looking away, the redhead admits she could do that, but grumbles that it sounds like a lot of extra work. Giving them zero time to block, the warrior fiercely charges in, landing a flaming right hook straight to the first goon's face. Shook by how fast the violence popped off, our MC gulps watching how effortless the strike was. Pulling off an acrobatic flip, the alien delivers a brutal kick, launching the bad guy violently into the air. Taking advantage of the distraction, the heavier goon tries to grab the hero with both hands. But moving at unreal speed, she counters with a massive knee strike straight to the big guy's jaw. Both attackers hit the floor completely out cold, while Nanju lets out a terrified scream seeing her squad get packed up. Spotting a window in the chaos, the guy grabs his friend's hand, knowing staying near the brawl is a guaranteed game over. He pulls the nerdy girl along, demanding they get to a safe spot away from the flying debris. Tracking their escape attempt, the parasite leader flashes a twisted smile, already plotting her payback. Dozens of shadowy tentacles burst from the floor, scaring the students while the villain mocks their attempt to run. Before they can even blink, the evil ropes wrap tightly around Seiyu, completely tying her up. The human girl gets yanked into the air without warning, left dangling in the middle of the wrecked restaurant with zero way to break free. To make things worse, the sharp tip of one of the tentacles hovers lethally close to the hostage's neck. Holding all the cards, Nanju reminds him he belongs to her and demands he surrender if he wants to save the annoying girl. Turning up the mental pressure, the parasite laughs, mockingly asking if the human can't follow a simple order. Totally cornered, Hashizora holds his hands up, taking the deal and screaming for her to drop his friend right now. Interrupting the surrender, Shiho asks if he seriously wants to live in a tank, but the guy claps back, reminding her that Seiyu is literally a hostage. Keeping control of the board, the leader gives a dark warning that she'll end his classmate right there if the alien tries anything funny. Slicing through the tension, the space warrior flat-out refuses the surrender, leaving the villain completely confused. With her arm smoking with power, the bodyguard casually states she couldn't care less if some random Earth girl bites the dust. Hearing that level of coldness, our MC goes completely into shock, his eyes wide with disappointment. Finding the drama hilarious, Nanju mocks the kid's bad luck while the hostage whimpers helplessly in her dark bindings. Consumed by panic, Hashizora yells at the alien not to do anything and begs again to swap places with his trapped friend. The redhead grabs her VIP's shoulder firmly, telling him to forget the girl and drop this useless hero complex. Feeling a deep wave of anger, the guy instantly reacts, slapping the warrior's hand away hard to break her grip. He gives his bodyguard a harsh glare, telling her with heavy disappointment that she really doesn't get humans at all. The image of his super-hyped friend flashes in his mind, remembering how excited she was to actually meet an alien. Turning his back to the redhead, he finishes his thought, regretting that after all that support she's acting this cold. Full of resolve, the student declares that Seiyu is the most important friend he has, and if the warrior can't respect that, they're done. The fire alien looks down in silence, seemingly soaking in the weight of the human's harsh words. Closing the argument with a lot of hurt, the guy says if that's how she thinks, then this is goodbye forever. Catching the kid completely off guard, Shiho yanks him by the collar, announcing that they need a proper send-off first. Giving him zero time to process, the warrior pulls him in, pressing her lips to his in an intense surprise kiss. During the kiss, a mysterious red energy starts radiating from the guy's back while he freezes with wide eyes. The reaction is instant on the villain's body, forcing the hidden alien essence to tear through the host's flesh to escape. The deformed freak crawls completely out of the shadows, feeling the massive resonance of the awakened primordial power. The redhead breaks the kiss, softly wiping her lips while the earthling tries to reboot his brain after what just happened. Walking right past her dazed VIP, the warrior waves backwards, giving him a sarcastic goodbye. Strolling toward the enemies, she mentions the kid should have just been a good boy from the start, since he doesn't know how to use his own power. The parasite's attention is 100 locked on the newly awakened energy, dropping Seiyu from the death grip without a second thought. Right after, Hashizora's left arm bursts into flames, morphing into an insane burning claw. The possessed leader's eyes go wide, absolutely unable to believe the human's intimidating transformation. Scanning the raw energy, the villain realizes with pure terror that the kid just absorbed the traits of an alien from Misha. Fueled by his newly acquired strength, the student launches forward, leaving a trail of embers on the floor. He crosses the restaurant like a fire missile, flying right past his bodyguard and aiming his attack straight at the main threat. Consumed by extreme panic as her impending doom approaches, Nanju lets out a high-pitched scream right before impact. Unloading all that pent-up cosmic fire into one devastating punch, our MC wonders if this level of strength is going to be enough. The energy of the explosion echoes through the cosmos, traveling instantly to the farthest edges of the vast universe. In an incredibly distant galaxy, the tech facilities of a mystery planet start picking up the massive energy anomaly. Deep inside this dark world, hooded figures gather in the shadows of a grand hall surrounding a floating sphere. The hive mind of the group questions how such a primitive, useless star system managed to generate such a miracle. Staring at the pulsing mass of flesh in the center of the room, the villains are pissed, realizing a lower being woke up the primordial seed. Multiple weird eyes pop open on the blob, showing deep frustration over how this absurdity even happened. Sounding like an absolute ruling, the voices declare that this ultimate force must remain unique and can't exist twice in the universe. The council thinks over the unknown cause, mentioning that countless lower beings are already marching toward a planet called Earth. Analyzing the messy situation, a woman with short hair warns about the risks if someone manages to monopolize the power source. A giant tentacle structure hooked up to the core backs up her dark take, claiming this event will end in an absolute disaster. Totally agreeing with the massive risk, a little girl in a dress warns that this awakening will bring a catastrophe to the whole cosmos. A shadow entity reveals they quickly dispatched an execution officer to the location, but the hit mission failed miserably. One hooded guy mocks the assassin's incompetence, asking how a random earthling survived a lethal encounter. Cutting the small talk, the multi-eyed monster asks the boss if the main mission is now just to wipe Earth off the map completely. A mysterious leader chimes in, intrigued, mentioning they sent someone to Earth a long time ago. The creepy multi-eyed entity mutters the name Let. Then the commander remembers that this primitive planet was exactly where they exiled the warrior last time. A feline silhouette nods, recalling that she's already wiped out an entire world before, suggesting she just delete the target already. Evaluating the planet's status, the council decides the exile should do a total sweep if necessary, since the human world is completely worthless. Back at the wrecked restaurant, Amamiya is panting hard after unloading his flaming punch on the enemy. Seiya's eyes are wide open in pure shock, having zero clue how her classmate is wielding that kind of power. Still dazed by his own strength, the student stares at his flaming arm, trying to process what he just pulled off. Intense heat radiates off the fire claw the kid just created. Impressed by the show, Shiho figures her VIP actually managed to absorb the mission alien's ability. Sprawled in the rubble, the possessed leader groans in pain, trying to shake off the brutal hit she just took. Standing tall, our guy demands that the disgusting creature get out of Nanju's body right now. The parasite twitches violently and curses the kid, calling him some unknown alien freak while losing its grip on the host. Unable to handle the damage, the dark slime is forced out, getting violently puked up by the human victim. Finding the perfect opening, the alien bodyguard leaps gracefully, ready to snatch the monster out of the air. A voice claps for the attack from behind, making our MC spin around, totally confused by what's happening. The guy goes into absolute shock seeing Seiyu collapsed on the floor with serious damage to her chest. Freaking out over the terrifying scene, he rushes over to his friend, screaming her name at the top of his lungs. Holding the girl's bleeding body, the student begs her to hang in there while Shiho restrains the alien slime in the background. Panicking, he presses his shirt against the wound, but his anxiety spikes when he sees the bleeding won't stop at all. With tears in his eyes, the human cries that his friend is going to fade away before help arrives, begging for that same magic heal from earlier. Gripping the parasite, the space warrior calmly explains that transferring Misha's petrification energy is extremely risky. She walks over to the downed duo, warning that the human girl's body would probably pop like a balloon if they tried to force heal her. The alien breaks down that normal bodies are way too fragile to handle the load, and he only survived because he has the primordial power. Squeezing the captured creature tight, the bodyguard admits she's impressed he can already use that insane strength. Furious at her useless explanation, the kid screams that he couldn't care less about this cursed power he never even asked for. Looking at his friend and the knocked-out enemies, he vents that he never wanted any of this disaster to happen. Eaten up by guilt and sadness, the guy cries, admitting that even though the bullies were awful to him, he never wanted them to end up dead. The galactic warrior drops her confident act, staring at her VIP in surprise at his genuine empathy. But ruining the fragile moment, thick black tentacles smash into the restaurant, violently shattering the glass window. The loud wail of police sirens starts echoing down the street, grabbing the group's attention inside. Suddenly, the front door gets busted down by an insane amount of tentacles that look like strands of hair. Heavy boots crush the anomalies on the floor, while a female voice points out that this level of damage definitely has a clear cause. The newcomer adjusts her dark sunglasses, stating with absolute certainty that this has to be the work of aliens. Striking a flashy pose, a fake cop strolls into the ruined diner with a whole lot of attitude. Super hyped about the chaotic scene, the woman points a finger, celebrating that she hit the jackpot finding two targets at once. Confused by her extra entrance, the student stutters, asking if she's part of Earth's security force. Flashing a huge smile, the supposed cop says yes, but sarcastically adds that it's obviously just her cover story. Pulling her shades down to get a better look, the intruder locks onto the kid, recognizing him as the famous Earthling from the celestial rumors. Without warning, the captured parasite tries a quick lunge straight at the mystery agent. The woman in uniform blocks the strike with a green magic barrier, letting out a small, suppressed gasp. Wielding the enemy slime like a black whip, Shiho flashes a lethal smile, saying thanks for saving her the trouble of hunting the infiltrators down. Realizing the killing intent, the invader throws her hands up in surrender, telling her to chill and claiming she's just following orders. Driven by pure instinct, Shiho aggressively lunges forward, demanding to know if her orders are to take out her VIP. Facing the furious rush, the galactic agent calmly raises her palm to parry the attack with her own magic. The bodyguard's brutal strike gets instantly stonewalled by an emerald energy shield that is completely unbreakable. Radiating chill vibes, the agent tells the warrior to take a breath and relax, leaving the alien baffled by the flawless block. In the very next second, a crushing gravitational force drops Shiho to her knees on the broken floor before she can even blink. Thanks to the sudden impact of the magic weight, the black slime slips from the girl's hand and lands uselessly right in front of the duo. Violently cracking the concrete floor, a gigantic shadow tentacle bursts out from the depths of the building. Terrified by the lethal monster popping up out of nowhere, Amamiya screams, completely paralyzed by pure panic. The officer respectfully steps back from the giant entity, giving a formal salute to Special Supervisor Leet of the Galactic Union. The kid watches the Pillar of Darkness stand tall in front of him, frozen by how absurdly oppressive its presence is. Controlling the entire room with its dark roots, the entity commands with a booming voice that everyone can raise their heads. Trapped by the shadow bindings, the possessed parasites shake with fear while the voice accuses them of causing this useless mess. Sighing in pure frustration, the fake cop facepalms and asks if these troublemakers completely forgot space laws. Flipping her tone from joking to a low-key threat, she reminds them that Earth is a highly restricted, classified sector. Pointing an accusing finger, the woman states that the area is observation only, making the parasites grovel and beg for mercy. Having no idea what they're saying in alien talk, the student is just mind-blown that these lethal freaks are humiliating themselves out of fear. The uniformed woman smiles darkly, pretending to buy the pathetic creature's weak excuse about just wanting galactic peace. Spitting the word peace with max disrespect, the deadly entity raises its shadow blade right over the scared parasite. The supposed cop takes a firm step forward, radiating unquestionable authority throughout the ruined room. Locking onto the cowardly monster, she asks in an ice-cold tone who the heck gave him permission to go rogue on Earth. In the blink of an eye, the shadow blade pierces the slime without an ounce of mercy, making the thing let out a pathetic squeal. The officer's face turns cruelly cold behind her shades, showing absolutely zero empathy for the creature marked for deletion. Crushing the parasite until purple mess splatters everywhere, the boss states that this trash only wanted to steal the power. The deleted leftovers of the freak stain the broken floor, proving the absolute lethal force of intergalactic justice. Switching personalities on a dime, the woman smiles sweetly and salutes, announcing that the punishment has been successfully delivered. Shaking from head to toe, Amamiya stammers in panic, asking himself if she really just executed that thing without blinking. Slowly walking up to the kid cowering on the floor, she casually confirms the kill and calls him the special Earthling. With a loud snap of her fingers, the commander cancels all the dark energy bindings that were crushing the restaurant. Lifting the boy's chin with ironic gentleness, she wonders out loud what the best fate for his miserable life would be right now. Staring at the helpless target, the galactic agent reveals that this would be the perfect time to follow orders and delete him from the server permanently. A deep dive into the dawn of creation reveals that the highly sought-after primordial power was born from the explosive flash of the Big Bang itself. This absolute force was split into two unique halves. One became the radiant light that creates life, and the other the darkness of the abyss. For billions of years, the two forces stayed in perfect harmony, holding the universe together until something shifted. Blinded by greed, someone secretly stole the dark energy just to score even more cosmic power. Spreading chaos and destruction, this traitor kicked off a massive war until he was finally caught and executed by the Galactic Union. To prevent any more disasters, the organization decided that the dark essence needed to be wiped out for all eternity. Because of that, the Union's current system was set up right in the center of the universe to rule star systems and protect civilizations. They handpicked elite supervisors and assigned them to monitor every single existing star system 24/7. Zooming in on Earth, the multi-eyed leader warns Leet that the terrifying dark power has actually shown up there. The supreme entity declares that the human holding this dangerous energy needs to be found ASAP. Sipping her drink chill as ever, the agent listens to the mandate that the mission must be completed without a single screw-up. The main order is to take the target off the board before he fully matures and unleashes his lethal power against the cosmic order. The commander backs her up, saying that as a special class supervisor, the officer has more than enough firepower to handle the problem fast. Barely showing any emotion, Leet just keeps sipping her drink while listening to the cruel instructions via the glowing hologram in her dark room. The boss reminds her that it's been 1,000 years since the warrior got exiled to that completely primitive rock. Right after, the entity promises that if she nails the mission and wipes the kid from existence, she can finally go home. Back in the wrecked restaurant, the space agent holds Hashizura's chin, confirming he really is the special Earthling. Getting up close and personal, the officer tells the kid with a sadistic smirk that this would be the perfect chance to end him once and for all. Flashing an evil smile, she points out she could just carry out her extermination order right here and now, no problem. Totally panicked over his incoming game over, Hashizura cries, begging the overpowered woman to save his injured friends instead. The cop chuckles, noting that even with that absurd hidden power, he still acts like a super fragile Earthling. Meanwhile, Seiyu is still slumped awkwardly on the floor, losing a ton of blood from the massive damage to her chest. Holding his bleeding friend in his arms, our MC tells the warrior she can drain all his energy if she'll just help. In exchange for the absolute power he's holding, the kid only asks the officer to save his classmates and all the civilians caught in this mess. The supervisor watches the dramatic scene in dead silence, processing the wild offer coming from this desperate kid. Calmly walking up to her target, the woman gently touches his head, setting the stage to seal this final deal. Dropping her tone to dead serious, she asks if he truly understands the consequences of handing over that level of dangerous universal power. Shaking with fear and squeezing his eyes shut, the student nods, fully agreeing to her cruel terms. Happy with the solid answer, Leet flashes a sly smile and says, "Excuse me for a sec," so she can get this lethal process over with. Wasting no time, the agent pulls the kid into an intense kiss and is instantly wrapped in an unbelievably bright magic light. Keeping the connection going without a flinch, the alien mentions that the human's primordial force hasn't fully awakened yet. Right then, a massive sphere of pure black energy starts being forcefully ripped straight out of the terrified host's glowing chest. Draining the dark energy bit by bit, she swears that kissing him was literally the only practical way to pull out the incomplete power. Breaking the magic connection abruptly, the officer steps back panting, wiping her lips while trying to handle the heavy payload she just absorbed. Rocking a confident smirk, she holds her chest, commenting that the sheer amount of alien energy is absolutely massive. Making a quick hand sign with glowing fingers, Leet happily announces that they are now 100 ready to roll. A colossal explosion of green magic floods the room, leaving the student totally shook by the wild reaction. Unleashing all that stored power without holding back, the space agent loudly shouts the ultimate command to reverse entropy. Massive waves of emerald light radiate from her agile body, lighting up the ruined scene with an insane visual flare. A blinding flash erupts from the center of the busted restaurant, totally blinding everyone still hanging around. Outside the building, a massive dome of healing energy covers the entire city block in a terrifyingly fast blink of an eye. Under the crazy effect of the space magic, time instantly rewinds, repairing the crushed cars and damaged buildings on the street. Inside the now perfect diner, the customers fully recover, totally confused about why they were just laying on a clean floor. Dropped on the polished tiles nearby, Seiyu wakes up super confused, asking why she's suddenly taking a nap in the middle of a restaurant. Like some kind of unexplainable cosmic miracle, the entire dining hall is flawlessly rebuilt, leaving zero trace of the brutal brawl. Amazed by the incredible result, Hashizura touches his friend's shoulder, letting out a huge sigh of relief that he didn't lose her. He's incredibly relieved to see her fatal wounds have completely vanished, like they were never even on her body. The gang's bullies stare at each other in total shock, realizing they don't have a single scratch and the place is spotless. Holding the redhead alien up by her collar, Leech shows off her prisoner, stating she granted the kid's wish. Strolling casually, the cop mentions that unfortunately, she still can't take the full power until the Earthling finishes maturing. The student wipes his mouth awkwardly while the agent explains that, for now, she can only siphon the energy bit by poking small holes. Furious over the stolen kiss right in front of her, Shiho shoots the glasses-wearing woman a dark glare full of pure killing intent. The space supervisor raises her hand, continuing her threatening explanation, saying she has a much faster alternative to fix the issue. But out of nowhere, the girl from Misha violently grabs the cop's uniform, demanding she doesn't dare touch the helpless human. Leet looks down, totally surprised by the smaller rival's bold move, stepping up to her supreme authority right in the crowded room. Pulling the enemy close, Shiho growls through gritted teeth that she is the only one with the sacred right to protect her target here. Unbothered by the sass, the agent kicks the redhead, casually claiming she has a much simpler option in mind. Hashizora panics and screams for them to stop, while the officer points a finger, declaring she could just assassinate him instead. The heavy impact of the defensive strike sends the cosmic warrior crashing straight onto the cold floor without an ounce of respect. Terrified that a new disaster is about to kick off, the kid curls up, waiting in panic for the worst possible outcome. When he doesn't hear any sounds of a follow-up attack hitting his ally, he slowly opens his eyes, catching the cop zoning out near him. Sprawled on the smooth floor, the warrior locks eyes on her opponent's leg, which is just standing there, harmlessly but threateningly close to her face. Stumbling forward out of nowhere, the galactic supervisor complains, annoyed that the surprise grab almost made her faceplant. Fixing her posture with an awkward smile, she mutters to herself that she's pretty much wrapped up everything in the original plan. But with absolutely zero warning from her own body, the cop drops like a rock, slumping onto the diner's padded booth. Our MC is in total disbelief watching this ridiculously overpowered woman just pass out of nowhere, out cold on the table like a heavy rock. Staring at her downed, harmless rival, the cosmic warrior explains that alien energy slowly runs dry when they're far from home. Looking at the sleeping agent's chill face, she figures this powerhouse must have been living on Earth for a really long time. The redhead naturally concludes that, since she was already super weak, forcing a massive healing spell completely fried her batteries. The chatter starts back up in the now perfectly normal diner, with customers acting like it's just another average lunch rush. Hashizora is amazed and totally stunned that everyone around them just snapped right back to normal after that insanely long nightmare. Tossed on the shiny floor right in the main aisle, the leader Nanju wakes up totally lost, asking why the heck she's laying there like that. Her goon scrambles up in a panic, swearing he has no clue how they magically teleported from the hospital to this bright place. A polite waitress walks over asking the troublemakers to keep it down, while the blonde girl demands to know what kind of crazy trip this is. Our MC rubs his temples, feeling exhausted and knowing his massive headache is only getting worse with today's freak show. Making a drastic call without thinking too hard, he grabs his alien partner and his friend, deciding that booking it is their only option. Sprinting for his life through the bright parking lot onto the busy street, the student pants hard, praying nobody is chasing them. Carrying the knocked-out warrior, Hashizora stares at the mystery woman, mentally questioning who she really is. Completely drained by the ordeal, he drops onto the ground next to Seiyu, trying to figure out what the space agent is plotting. Watching the gang of criminals get booted by the staff, the student realizes the cop actually healed everyone. The kid notices she perfectly restored the entire restaurant, and apparently had zero intention of actually hurting him. Back at the diner, a waiter walks up to the sleeping Leet to let her know she can't just nap at the tables. The woman wakes up slowly, adjusting her shades, while the waiter grumbles about the sheer number of customers passing out today. Laughing it off awkwardly, the officer realizes she just blacked out from being insanely hungry. Fully recovered from her nap, the agent waves the worker over, hyped to finally place her real order. She orders nothing less than 5 pork cutlet bowls and 3 plates of curry all at once. Chowing down on the massive feast, the cop praises the grub, claiming Earth food is easily top tier. The scene shifts to the dark of night, showing an old photo on a desk that brings back heavy memories. The kid thinks back to his school days, mentally asking himself if he doesn't look way too much like some guy named Shorsha. Walking down the quiet street, Seiyu finally makes it to her front door with her buddy. The girl sits on her porch in the dark, looking completely defeated, while a mystery hand sneaks up from behind. A voice calls out to her from the shadows, making her jump and spin around to see who's there. Still kind of out of it, Seiyu blinks, confused when she hears a familiar voice coming right from her own front door. The girl's mom swings the door open out of nowhere, giving her daughter a massive jump scare. Her mom asks, super worried, why she was gone so late and what she was doing sitting out there alone. She tells her daughter to hurry up and get inside before she catches a cold. Watching from down the empty street, Hoshizora lets out a massive sigh of relief seeing his friend safe and sound. Back in his own room, the student vents about being exhausted while Shiho faceplants onto the bed, amazed by how soft it is. He tries to scold her, asking the guest not to roll around in his sheets wearing dirty street clothes. But the guy instantly realizes the alien warrior is already out cold on the mattress. Our MC puts the pieces together, remembering the cop's lore dump about aliens losing power far from home. Catching on, he figures that's exactly why his bodyguard passed out earlier and needs to sleep to recharge. Staring at the sleeping girl's peaceful face, the kid wonders what her real reason is for risking so much to guard him. His mom's old promise echoes in his head that a miracle would arrive when the star shower fell again. Bathed in the starlight, the human wonders if this space warrior is the big miracle he's been waiting for. In a distant, chaotic dream, a blazing meteor violently crashes down onto a totally ruined wasteland. In the middle of the hellish destruction, the magical figure of the alien falls from the sky, surrounded by intense cosmic explosions. The memory shifts to the rocky, desolate landscape of the warrior's home planet. A magic hand appears, condensing the elements around it to spawn a small, glowing rock as a demo. The teacher is instructing a group of kids on how to use the nearby elements to crystallize them and form meteors. She explains that this skill is the exact same one that lets adults turn their own bodies into solid rock. Little Shiho watches the bright magic up close, her eyes completely starstruck and full of hype. The instructor hypes up the class, promising that everyone can pull it off if they just focus on the elemental energies. One of the kids closes his eyes and focuses hard until he manages to spark some magic in his hand. The student cheers, super happy that he successfully crafted his first glowing rock. Right after, the other classmates quickly master the tech, celebrating that it's way easier than it looks. The teacher praises the group's progress, while the little redhead stays isolated in the back, struggling to focus. Pushing herself to the max, the little girl shakes, trying to summon even a tiny spark of magic in her palms. Frustrated by her own fail, she looks down sadly, admitting she just can't get the exercise right. The kid next to her blows out his own magic with a smirk, just flexing on the others. The rest of the kids start laughing and pointing fingers, bullying the girl for failing such a basic task. Being super cruel, one of the students suggests her parents weren't even from Misha and dumped her with just a serial number. Keeping up the toxic taunts, the brat dares his classmate to summon a meteor if she's actually mad at them. Completely crushed by the mean comments, the little girl runs away crying through the tech-filled streets of her home planet. She hides behind a massive rock formation in a secluded area so she can cry in peace. A little while later, the kind teacher tracks down her student's hiding spot and walks over gently. Comforting the kid, the instructor pats her head, swearing there is absolutely nothing wrong with her power. The woman reassures her that things will get easier when she grows up, making the little girl say thanks for the sweet support. Determined to pay back that kindness, the young alien starts grinding hard, training by herself every single day without a break. Late one quiet night, she keeps up her hardcore routine, focusing in total isolation at the top of the Rocky Mountain. The dead silence of the alien desert sets the stage for the warrior in training's endless grind. Channeling all her life energy into her palms, a bright golden glow finally starts taking physical shape. The hard work pays off, and the little girl cheers brightly when she sees the perfect magic rock floating in her hands. She grabs the glowing item tight, feeling the weight of her very first success. Wasting 0 seconds, the girl takes off sprinting, screaming for her teacher at the top of her lungs. Rocking a massive smile, she repeats to herself that she finally mastered the elemental tech. But the hype gets brutally cut short when she freezes in her tracks, completely terrified by something up ahead. The shock is so intense that the newly crafted rock slips right out of her hands and shatters on the dusty ground. The kid hears a horrifying sound of destruction echoing from outside the cave and goes into full panic mode. Shaking like a leaf, the little girl's eyes go wide as she senses fatal danger approaching fast. The view outside is a chaotic hellscape, with gigantic beasts wrecking the entire burning city. One of the massive, intimidating monsters rises up right in front of the defenseless girl. Facing a guaranteed game over, the kid completely loses her voice, frozen in terror and unable to run. Showing absolutely zero mercy, the wild beast raises its claws and launches a devastating strike at the kid. A massive explosion of fire tears through the scene, blocking the hit right before it reaches its fragile target. The impact from the hero block creates a violent shockwave that blasts the little girl backward. The student lands hard on the dirt, groaning from the fall while trying to figure out how she's still breathing. Looking up fast, the young girl instantly recognizes the silhouette of the person who jumped in front of her. Her sweet teacher is standing there, throwing up a flaming magic shield to hold back the giant beast's arm all by herself. Crying and totally confused, the little girl begs her instructor to tell her what is going on. Looking back calmly, the hero calls the student by her space ID number in a really sweet tone. Condensing intense light magic in her hand, the master orders the kid to hide until the danger passes. Seeing the destruction all around, the little girl screams in absolute despair from the floor of that hellish scene. Darkness eats everything and the kid begs for help, asking if everyone is okay. Waking up with a huge jump, the now-grown warrior pants heavily in the kid's bed, trying to process the nightmare. Still shaken by the painful memory, the alien realizes she just dreamt about her dark past. She turns her head, staring out into the night to try and chill out after that horrible scare. The warm memory of her old instructor pops up, and she silently asks the woman to guide her. Watching her classmate sleep soundly next to her, the redhead whispers that she finally found him. Full of resolve, the fighter swears to protect this powerful earthling no matter what happens. The young girl doubles down on her lethal promise to keep him safe until the day of his awakening arrives. In the middle of pitch-black darkness, the student is running for his life, trying to escape a threatening voice calling him. Hoshizora snaps awake in his bed, gasping for air after the super creepy dream. Without warning, a monstrous shadow pops up right behind the human, demanding his energy. Freaking out at the creepy threat, the guy begs his alien partner to save him. He screams the warrior's name at the top of his lungs, praying she'll rescue him from this ghost. To his absolute shock, the space cop pops out of nowhere, looking way too energetic for this early in the morning. Thanks to the massive jump scare, the kid loses his balance and falls backward, screaming in terror on his own bed. The supervisor steps up looking intimidating, demanding her target hand over all his energy right now. The kid's blood runs cold and he freezes, staring at a completely messed up scene. Seiya's lifeless figure floats into view, covered in battle damage, blaming her friend for all of it. Totally horrified by the tragic visual, he mutters his classmate's name, grabbing his own face. Rocking a dark look without her shades, the galactic agent steps forward, asking for his power once again. The woman grabs the human brutally, screaming at him to just hand over the primordial force already. In an explosion of panic, our MC screams at the top of his lungs, finally waking up for real in his bright room. Heart racing and breathing heavy, the human wonders if all that was just a crazy fever dream. He turns his head nervously and finds his alien partner sleeping like a baby in the bed next to him. The warrior is out cold, letting out a tiny snore, totally oblivious to her VIP's panic attack. Rubbing his head, Hoshizora realizes the pile of recent trauma is officially deep-frying his brain. Trying to chill, the student decides he urgently needs to step outside and get some fresh air. A bit later, the convenience store bell rings as the customer walks out with his snacks. Out on the street, the guy sits down at a table, letting out a sigh of relief as he gets ready to eat his breakfast. Soaking in the peaceful moment, the kid thinks about how much he misses his boring, quiet routine. Taking a huge bite of his food, he mentally crosses his fingers that his nerdy friend is safe at home. Right then, a mystery figure in workout gear sneaks up quietly to the student's table. The space supervisor appears, casually stretching in a tight red tracksuit. Hit by another massive jump scare, the guy falls backward, knocking his chair over from the shock. Staring down at her helpless prey on the ground, the woman sarcastically asks why the human is freaking out so hard. Keeping her chill vibe, the officer tells him to relax, swearing she isn't gonna eat him right there on the street. A few minutes later, the two start walking together down a quiet dirt roadway outside the city. The agent laughs loudly, celebrating that she finally feels alive again after recharging her batteries. Trying to make sense of this absurd situation, the human asks if she drained all her power fighting monsters last night. Sipping her tea totally relaxed, the woman confirms his guess, reminding him that deleting invaders is literally her job. Crushing the plastic bottle in anger, Leet grumbles, annoyed that she let one of the freaks escape alive. Walking through the open field, the cop admits she totally blew it by ignoring the kill order, and now she can't go home. Confused by her sudden act of kindness, the kid stammers, asking why she didn't just follow through with the hit mission. Looking down with a nostalgic vibe, the woman hesitates before spilling her real reason. Clenching her fist with a lot of hype, the agent declares she only did it just to spite the Galactic Union. The student has absolutely no idea what her answer means, and she warns him it would take days to explain the space politics. Flashing some green magic energy, the supervisor decrees that the kid is going to have to take responsibility. With zero chance to run, the woman explains she needs to find an alternative way to get back to her planet. Pulling the target into a hype hug, Lead announces the new plan is to build a spaceship using his and the redhead's energy. The human nervously asks what they have to do first, but the officer warns him that his power has to fully awaken first. Giving him an ambitious, dangerous look, she admits she's going to need an insane amount of that primordial force. Pinching the kid's cheeks hard, the cop promises she's gonna stick to him 24/7 to keep him alive until then. Our MC's brain completely crashes just imagining having to deal with two problematic aliens in his daily life. Desperate to escape this madness, the young guy takes off sprinting, screaming that he doesn't need another cosmic bodyguard. The school bell rings loudly across the courtyard, signaling the start of another long day of classes. Panting from the sprint, Amamiya opens the classroom door, relieved he actually made it before the bell. He spots his friend with glasses asleep on her desk, feeling a lot better knowing she got here safe. A classmate bursts in knocking stuff over, apologizing for being late while the others call him out for skipping yesterday. Walking to his own desk, the guy thinks it over and notices the bullies didn't show up for school today. Sitting down, the student figures the gang got healed yesterday and just hopes they didn't run into any monsters. Total silence takes over the room as the students stare confused at the person standing by the chalkboard. The sound of chalk tapping the board grabs everyone's attention, looking at the new presence taking over the class. The student feels a chill run down his spine, recognizing the unmistakable figure running the show. Rocking a sleek business suit, the intergalactic cop cheerfully introduces herself as the class's new teacher. Completely mind-blown by the audacity, our MC slams his hands on the desk, jumping up and screaming to know what she's doing here. The school principal shuts the kid down instantly, asking if he has a problem with the new staff member. The rest of the class shoots daggers at the nerd, complaining about his random outburst and calling him a weirdo for yelling like that. Cornered by his classmates' harsh judgment, Hashizora tries to figure out why everyone is acting so hostile. The students accept the teacher swap with bizarre ease, leaving the guy terrified by the obvious mind control. Radiating a faint emerald aura, the fake teacher waves happily, promising they're all going to get along great this year. Defeated by the invaders' mind games, the human slumps into his chair, deeply regretting ever getting involved in all this space drama. Far away, the broken window of a hospital room is stained with battle damage, while a female voice screams and curses with pure hatred. The gang leader Nanju is shown sprawled on a medical bed, covered in bandages after the brutal beatdown she took at the diner. Biting her own finger until it bleeds from pure rage, the delinquent cries, complaining about always ending up in the worst-case scenario. The attacker hits Nanju over the head with a bottle, screaming angrily about how many times he had to tell her to restock the booze. On her knees, the girl covers her head begging him to stop, crying that her skull feels like it's going to explode. Then the scene cuts back to the dark hospital room where her two goons are laying in their beds, all bruised up. The flashback of the brutal brawl that wrecked the family restaurant floods the delinquent's damaged mind. Totally dazed, the blonde holds her own head, trying to figure out what kind of bizarre memories those are. Catching on, she figures the creatures must keep the memories of the bodies they hijack. Suddenly, the black parasite appears, forcing its way into her mouth and suggesting they permanently become one body. The dark entity warns her that this connection is gonna be way different from when it was just using the human as a host. Being hijacked against her will, Nanju's eyes go wide while the monster promises they'll get their hands on that special power. With its eyes glowing a creepy purple, the freak swears it will grant absolutely every wish the human has. Snapping back to the present, the attacker kicks the bedroom door wide open, screaming the leader's name in a fury. Glaring at the girl collapsed in the dark, he calls her useless for skipping school just to stuff her face. The guy steps up, smacking the bottle into his hand, threatening to end every single one of them right there without mercy. Wrapped in a sinister energy, the girl slowly stands up, muttering that she won't let that happen. Flashing a lethal smile and corrupted eyes, Nanju firmly declares that she won't let anything she wants slip away. At school, the sound of chalk tapping the board grabs the whole class's attention during the quiet lesson. The space supervisor writes on the board, explaining that this place is now running under an absolute dictatorship. Amamiya tenses up, remembering how insane it is to have an alien acting as their homeroom teacher. Looking super confused, the guy asks himself how things went off the rails so fast. The agent slams her hand on the desk, calling on the student and giving him a massive jump scare. Flashing an ironic smile, the officer asks if he knows how to survive under a strict dictatorial regime. Cornered at his own desk, our MC gulps hard, repeating the word survive while sweating bullets. Keeping up the threatening vibe, the woman warns him that his only option is to follow orders without question. Clapping her hands cheerfully, she praises the kid for understanding and tells him to focus on today's lesson. Seiyu watches from a distance, feeling super sus about the new mystery teacher's weird behavior. Ignoring the tension, the invader happily announces that the class is moving on to the next topic. The student sighs, exhausted, admitting he never thought he'd see real aliens infiltrated into his school. He figures that, at the very least, the woman doesn't seem to want to cause trouble and wonders if he should have brought Shiho along. Far away, the warrior wakes up with a jolt, her eyes popping open in a panic as she looks around totally disoriented. Looking like a total mess, the redhead screams at the top of her lungs that she's starving in the empty bed. Rubbing her eyes, the alien grumbles that she overslept because her battery was completely on empty. Hyped at the idea of food, she calls out for Amamiya, mentioning she's really craving some amurus right now. Looking around the bright room, the visitor realizes the place is totally empty and dead silent. Worried about his sudden vanishing act, the combatant hops out of bed fast, calling her VIP's name around the house. She runs through every room in the place, looking for the kid everywhere but coming up empty. Panicking in the middle of the living room, the space traveler screams the student's name at the top of her lungs. Pulling at her own hair, the girl freaks out, guessing he walked out the front door alone without saying a word. Deep frustration hits the hero as she tries to process what a massive problem this is. Trying to keep her cool, the redhead holds her hand out, deciding she just needs to track down his special energy signature. Focusing her investigative magic, the warrior's eyes glow with an intense, burning energy. A radar wave pulses through the room, trying to pick up any trace left behind by her runaway target. The spell completely fails, leaving the alien shook that she can't sense a single clue. Without thinking twice, she busts the front door wide open, rushing onto the sidewalk to find her human. Tearing down the street at top speed, the warrior tries to figure out why her radar can't pick up the kid's energy. Running aimlessly through the city, the hero wonders if the critical fail in her magic radar is because she's starving. Giving the situation a quick rethink, the fighter gets frustrated, realizing she should have charged her battery more. Right then, two kids walk by chatting about how school got out early today. The little boy invites his friend over to his house for pudding, remembering the leftover snack in his fridge. The alien eavesdrops on the innocent chat and instantly decides she needs to go check this school place to look for him. She focuses on her heavy footsteps hitting the pavement, remembering her earthling VIP usually hangs out there too. Stopped at a busy intersection, the redhead is totally lost, having no idea which way his school actually is. An angry driver lays on the horn, yelling at the crazy girl to get out of the dangerous road and move it. Suddenly, the hero's alien senses go crazy, picking up an extremely lethal presence nearby. Reacting fast to the danger, she jumps with insane force, cracking the asphalt right under her bare feet. The car slams on its brakes in shock, while the traveler realizes she definitely felt something super dark over there. Taken over by pure urgency, the warrior takes off sprinting, announcing that the bizarre anomaly is super close. Sprinting down the sidewalk at max speed, she locks onto the black smoke rising far off in the city skyline. Looking confused, the redhead thinks it's weird that this evil energy feels nothing like Amamiya's vibe. Reaching the street where the disaster is, the hero hits the brakes, feeling the absurdly heavy atmosphere crushing the area. Two women run by terrified, bumping into the alien who is just trying to figure out where all this mass panic is coming from. Rounding the corner in a rush, the warrior is completely baffled, trying to comprehend what on earth is going down on this street. The terrifying sight of the tragedy makes the alien's eyes go wide with pure shock and disbelief at the danger. The massive apartment building is engulfed in intense flames, while the crowd outside panics, totally helpless. A little girl cries hard, clutching her teddy bear and calling for her mom in the middle of the desperate chaos. The space traveler freezes on the pavement, processing the absolute mess and the intense heat of the raging fire. A traumatic memory from her past hits hard, showing dark monsters destroying her old hometown. Snapping back to harsh reality, firefighters rush around, trying to pull kids out of the blazing danger zone. Trapped residents hang out of upper-floor windows, begging for an immediate rescue as the fire spreads fast. The redhead looks down, feeling the heavy burden of painful memories from her cruel childhood training. The protective image of her old teacher saving her from death pops up as a massive emotional trigger in her mind. Without a second thought for her own safety, the hero leaps straight into the building, ignoring the warning shouts. One of the rescue crew yells at the crazy girl to stop right now and turn back before it's too late. The bystanders on the street are completely shook, screaming in panic that a girl just ran straight into the fiery hell. The out-of-control fire eats through the wrecked hallway, creating a deadly wall of heat blocking any quick rescue. The intense flames explode violently through the closed room, showing the extreme danger the brave alien just walked into. Cutting through the fierce fire, Shiho comes sliding out of the building carrying a woman and a kid in her arms. Watching the impossible rescue, a woman in the crowd mutters in total shock, unable to believe what she just saw. The firefighter runs up, thanking her for the insane heroism, and immediately asks if all the civilians are out. Still panting from the effort, the warrior shakes her head no, letting him know the job isn't done yet. Trapped right in the middle of the raging fire, Nanju is sprawled on the floor while a threatening shadow creeps closer. Ignoring the firefighter's desperate warnings, the redhead bolts back inside, diving straight into the burning inferno again. The inside of the apartment is still being totally devoured by the relentless, destructive flames. Surrounded by the extreme heat, the delinquent leader stares blankly at an old photograph getting eaten by the fire. The shadow entity cheers inside her head, claiming they finally managed to clear a huge obstacle out of their way. Promising total freedom from here on out, the parasite creature tries to calm the girl down since she's still hesitating in fear. Riddled with guilt, the host cries, admitting she never wanted things to get to such a dark place. The evil presence demands she stop showing weakness right now, reminding her of their main goal, stealing that power. Messing with her head, the anomaly doubles down, telling her this absurd strength is exactly what she wanted so badly. Giving in completely to the dark influence, the young girl's eyes glow purple as she mutters about the power. Right then, the sound of rushing footsteps echoes through the ruined room, grabbing the possessed girl's attention instantly. With a burst of brute force, the jam door gets kicked off its hinges, clearing a path through the smoking debris. Totally surprised by the interruption, the villain freezes, trying to see who just busted into the room. The redhead hero appears panting in the smoke, making the parasite furious over the completely uninvited guest. The monster realizes with panic that the alien bodyguard must have tracked them down to this exact spot. Catching her breath, the cosmic fighter smiles, relieved she made it in time to pull off the rescue. But suddenly, the traveler's eyes go wide, noticing a very dangerous detail on the victim in front of her. Pointing an angry finger, she instantly recognizes the vibe of that disgusting creature from yesterday. Playing dumb, the blonde coughs weakly, asking what kind of invader story the girl is talking about. The redhead drops her guard, actually believing the human got amnesia after puking up the monster at the diner. Taking advantage of the savior's hesitation, the girl forces a painful cough, acting like she's about to collapse. Without thinking twice, the hero throws the injured blonde over her shoulder, declaring they need to bounce right now. The apartment ceiling starts caving in dangerously as the fiery hell threatens to swallow both girls whole. Out on the safe pavement, the paramedics rush over with a stretcher to help the final victim pulled from the disaster. Completely wiped out, the alien wipes the sweat off her face, complaining she burned way more energy than she planned. The extreme fatigue was caused by an emotional slip-up, since the flames brought all her dark past trauma bubbling back up. Even while safe, the warrior touches her chest, suspicious and totally certain she felt a terrifying threat inside the building. Lying on the stretcher, the delinquent leader bursts into fake tears, screaming for her parents like she's completely devastated. The victim curls up on the ground crying her eyes out, putting on a show that makes all the pros around her feel terrible. Totally fooled by the flawless acting, the hero herself starts tearing up, feeling awful for the poor human. But the second nobody is looking, the parasite flashes a cruel smile, celebrating how perfectly her disguise worked. The bodyguard hits her absolute physical limit and completely loses her balance, stumbling weakly in the middle of the blocked-off street. The redhead passes out cold, collapsing onto the asphalt and scaring the firefighters who rush over to check her vitals. Keeping up the poor victim act, the blonde watches the commotion, demanding her savior also be taken to the ER. Her face, covered in fake tears, hides the dark satisfaction of successfully manipulating the whole situation in her favor. The scene shifts to a chaotic ER, where the medical team is scrambling to treat all the victims. Laying comfortably in a hospital bed, the space warrior finally wakes up from her blackout with a soft groan. Rubbing her eyes in confusion, she tries to recognize the hospital room and guesses her battery just hit zero again. The curtain gets pulled back, revealing Nanju, who apologizes for being gone, claiming she had to go check on her parents. Laying on the charm, the girl gives a heartfelt thanks for the heroic rescue that saved her family's lives. Faking Mac's concern, the parasite leans in, asking sweetly if her savior is feeling any pain. Before she can even answer, the redhead's stomach growls insanely loud, exposing just how starving she is. Defeated by her own appetite, the fighter admits she's famished, prompting the visitor to ask her to wait right there for a sec. Without raising a single red flag, the blonde slips out of the room quickly, leaving the alien patient chilling in bed. Alone in the bed, the hero watches the girl leave, just staring out into the quiet hospital hallway. Hurrying back, the human holds out a chocolate bar, insisting the patient eat it to get her strength back. Acting super friendly, she explains she grabbed the candy real quick from a vending machine down the hall. With her eyes practically sparkling with joy, the redhead attacks the snack, thanking her over and over for the surprise treat. Happily chewing the chocolate, the alien praises the girl's kindness, completely blind to the enemy's dark intentions. Watching how gullible her opponent is, the parasite analyzes how she just looks like a harmless idiot eating like that. Crossing her legs tensely, the villain tries to figure out the real reason behind the rescue and wonders how much the hero actually knows about her disguise. With a calculating glare, she keeps studying every reaction of the naive girl to find any crack in her armor. Taking the lead, the blonde asks for a second, warning that she needs to share something important without the other girl freaking out. Laying the drama on thick, the host stammers, claiming her recent memories feel like a totally confusing nightmare. She spins a tragic tale about blacking out in the dark forest and miraculously waking up in the middle of that restaurant. In absolute panic, the dark conscience screams inside her head, demanding to know why the heck she's blowing their cover. Totally ice cold, the leader mentally orders the monster to shut up, since she needs to test what the opponent actually knows. Getting back to the act, the young girl claims she remembers a terrifying fight against someone who looked exactly like the redhead warrior. The happy chewing stops instantly, and the traveler leans in, staring at the human with some heavy suspicion. The sudden intimidation makes the parasite gulp hard, sweating bullets and fearing her mind games just went a little too far. Having a genuine lightbulb moment, the bodyguard claps her hands, guessing the monster's memories just got stuck in the girl's brain. Being a total chatterbox, the ET starts speedrunning a recap of all the chaotic events from yesterday. Hiding her sadistic smirk, the villain mentally celebrates her flawless victory of easily fooling the cosmic hero. The chat gets cut off when a friendly nurse walks in, asking if the patient is feeling any pain anywhere. Prepping her medical gear, the pro politely mentions she just needs to draw a tiny blood sample. The nurse tells the young girl to relax as she lines up the cold needle right against the patient's tough skin. To the medic's absolute shock, the metal tip just crumples against the girl's rock-hard skin without piercing a thing. Completely baffled by this biological nonsense, the worker stares at a bunch of bent syringes tossed on her tray. Desperate for a logical answer, the woman blames a bad batch from the factory and runs off to grab fresh needles. The blonde looks confused, asking why there's no blood, right before the redhead's stomach loudly growls again. Blushing super hard from the noisy interruption, the traveler slumps her shoulders while her visitor just stares in surprise. The bedroom door gets shut fast so they don't raise any more suspicion. Right after, the nurse comes back apologizing for the wait and says they're gonna try the test again. Completely lost, the pro stares at the empty bed, having no idea where her patient vanished to. Way far from that hospital, Shiho takes a massive bite out of a giant burger, finally killing her built-up hunger. Sitting at the table, Nanju comments, amazed, that the alien is way too skinny to be eating that much food. The blonde gently rests her face on her hand, just watching her companion chew without a care in the world. Right then, a sad flashback hits, showing her parents screaming at each other while little Nanju cried because she was starving. The loneliness of her past haunts the girl's mind, showing her huddled up alone in a dark alley. The feeling of abandonment kept scarring the young girl's life as she sat there sad and left out in the cold. Suddenly, the parasite's voice echoes in the host's head, snapping her back to the present moment. The entity warns her this isn't the time to cry over the past, reminding her that their main target is the kid's power. The monster hints that the bodyguard also wants to steal his strength, but Nanju snaps back, saying she already has a plan. She thinks it over and realizes the redhead is way too op, and a straight-up fight would just end in a humiliating defeat. The creature agrees, terrified that the galactic cop might come back, and asks what the strategy is without using magic. With a massive ego, the delinquent declares that mission number 1 is getting the savior away from Amamiya. Keeping up the act, the blonde vents that her family is a total wreck, and she often wished they would just disappear. The girl says that's probably why she never ran away, admitting she was actually terrified when the fire started. Turning on the charm, the villain says thanks for the miracle rescue and quickly drops the offer to become besties. Hit by a massive wave of surprise, the space traveler's eyes go wide, dropping her burger right on the table. Completely lost on the Earthling slang, the hero innocently asks if friendship is something tasty to eat. Right then, the redhead mutters to herself, trying to connect the word to having someone watch your back when things get rough. The image of her old master pops into her head, bringing back the warmth of the person who always protected her at her lowest. Nanju reaches her hand across the table, asking for the alien's name to seal their brand new social link. Acting super sweet, the human formally introduces herself as Nanju Nagi, waiting for a response. Overflowing with emotion, the fighter grabs both of her new friend's hands, happily dropping her Earth name. On the inside, the parasite fakes its joy, confirming that the perfect trap is set with their dangerous opponent. Shiho beams with genuine happiness, feeling like she just unlocked her very first friendship on planet Earth. Meanwhile at school, the new space teacher excitedly announces that final exams are going down next week. Seiyu complains that this was literally her first time teaching a class, but the agent brushes it off, promising everyone will score 100. Striking an over-the-top pose, the supervisor brags about having hundreds of years of teaching experience on her resume. Not caring at all about the students' concerns, Teacher Leet promises there is absolutely zero issue with the test material. Our MC reminds himself he needs to focus on studying and can't just let this alien madness distract him forever. A nostalgic memory washes over him, bringing back the days he used to stargaze right alongside his mom. That peaceful time ended the exact day his mom just vanished without a trace. Since then, his dad buried himself in work trips, which made the kid come up with a theory that his mom was out researching the stars too. He mentally swears he has to get into an astronomy college no matter what, so he can chase his own destiny. The boy clearly understands that this degree is his one real shot at finding his missing mom. After dismissing the class, the galactic agent tells everyone to go straight home and study, giving our focused student a massive jump scare. The young guy sighs with relief while walking down the school halls, just glad no disasters popped off during class. Gripping his backpack strap tight, he admits that all this sudden peace and quiet is actually making him super anxious. Right then, the kid gets really paranoid, wondering if his redhead bodyguard is actually chilling at home without causing any chaos. Seiya's familiar voice calls out, snapping him out of his deep thoughts right there in the hallway. The girl adjusts her glasses and shyly asks if he wants to start hitting the books together for the exams. Full of hope and blushing hard, his friend waits for his answer, crossing her fingers that they can team up. Our guy is a bit surprised by the random invite, but his face softens as he gets where she's coming from. The kid accepts the offer with a chill smile, knowing he needs to go all in on his college future. On the walk home, the nerdy girl is completely mind-blown by the story of the space cop and everything that went down yesterday. The young girl asks if it's even worth stressing over exams with all this madness going on, but her friend strongly agrees that it is. Standing his ground, the guy promises that even though they are dealing with weird stuff, their reality hasn't changed. He declares he's getting into college no matter what, hyping up his classmate who swears she'll give it her best shot too. Suddenly, the student asks where the redhead went, and the guy confesses he left the alien at his house this morning. Totally shocked, the human reminds him that the space bodyguard swore she'd never leave her Earthling VIP's side. Stopped at a red light, Hashizora explains he took advantage of his guest's heavy sleep to sneak out quietly in the morning. His classmate pictures the traveler wearing nothing but her friend's shirt and mentally questions if it's safe for them to live together. Unable to hide the heavy jealousy hitting her, the girl with glasses mutters that she gets it, looking down frustrated. To break the ice, his friend asks about his dad, but the student plays it off, saying the old man is still traveling the globe. Worried about safety, the nerd suggests they change plans and study at his place instead of the public library. Scratching his cheek awkwardly, the guy theorizes the invaders must be laying low since he hasn't felt any weird vibes. Seiyu panics, demanding her friend be more responsible, warning him that the alien would never just sit quietly waiting for him. Knowing the huge risk, our MC agrees with his friend, admitting the hero probably caused some kind of mess by now. But the student thinks to himself that talking about reality is easy, and in practice, the crazy image of his partner demanding food terrifies him. In the middle of the street, Hashizora points at the black smoke on the horizon, asking if that isn't a real fire. Seiyu recognizes the exact neighborhood and realizes in shock that the fire is ripping through the delinquent's apartment building. Holding onto some heavy grudges, the young girl mutters that the bully totally deserved the tragedy, asking what her friend thinks. Disagreeing with his friend's hate, the guy feels bad about the situation, remembering the blonde wasn't always this awful. A sweet memory pops into his head, showing Nanju smiling and waving happily a long time ago. Noticing the guy's hesitation, the nerdy human tries to hide her frustration, grumbling that this whole thing is just super weird. Annoyed, she grips her skirt, mentally pissed off that he's forgiving the girl who made his life a living hell. The nerdy classmate violently yanks her friend's arm, picking up the pace and demanding they get out of there right now. Like a magic trick, Shiho leaps into the air, overflowing with hype and screaming her VIP's name like she missed him forever. The impact is so heavy that Hashizora almost wipes out from the traveler's insanely euphoric bear hug. The redhead rubs her face on him like a needy puppy, happily claiming she went straight home just like he ordered. Shook by her blind obedience, the human blushes and asks for some space while wondering who exactly gave her that order. Faking max chill, Seiyu greets her rival while the alien answers super sweetly, calling her a friend. Faced with the cosmic bodyguard's over-the-top hype, our MC just calmly notes that she seems to be in a really good mood. Super hyped, Shiho announces she actually made a new friend too. Surprised by the random update, Seiyu stops walking, asking who this person could be. Right then, Nanju walks out of the shower wrapped in a towel, casually welcoming Amamiya home. Pure shock takes over the hallway, leaving the two students completely frozen in place. Going into full panic mode, our MC points a finger, screaming his old enemy's name. Bursting with pride, the redhead introduces her new buddy, swearing she already puked up the alien. Still shaking from the bizarre sight, the nerdy friend stutters, trying to confirm if it's really her. Right then, Seiyu remembers that the warrior literally can't tell humans apart from space invaders. The traveler just mumbles confusedly, while the host pays close attention to the tense chat. Pulling off a flawless act, Nanju cries, saying her house burned down and she has nowhere to go. Touched by the lie, the protector agrees that friends should help out defenseless earthlings. Finding an emotional opening, the former delinquent takes a step toward the homeowner. She gets uncomfortably close to the guy, asking in a teasing tone for him to do her a solid. Consumed by pure rage and jealousy, the classmate with glasses warns her that she's not the only one who has been here before. Without thinking twice, Seiyu shoves Amamiya out of the way, totally killing the vibe between them. Taking the front line, the student reminds her buddy about their promise to hit the books. Annoyed by the interruption, the houseguest looks up, ready to talk trash to the annoying nerd. But Seiyu fires back that dedicated students have exams and are planning to get into college together. Glaring down at her rival, Nanju totally understands what this human is trying to pull. Switching up her strategy fast, she turns her back, deciding she's going to crash their study session too. Radiating a stealthy dark aura, the girl announces she'll be crashing at this place for a while. The absurd announcement leaves both students completely baffled and speechless in the hallway. The duo's scream of pure shock echoes outside the house into the busy afternoon. Now set up in the living room, the group tries to focus on their textbooks while the intruder scrolls on her phone. The constant noise severely annoys our MC and his friend, who just wanted to study in peace. Totally ignoring the heavy vibe, the former delinquent bursts out laughing at an internet video. Fed up with the disrespect, the host demands she keep it down if she isn't gonna help with the material. Mocking his lecture, the girl shows off a prank video on her screen, claiming she's studying the world. Losing her temper, the nerdy student stands up from the table, agreeing in a very threatening tone. The troll blinks, confused, not getting the studious girl's sudden vibe shift. Without warning, Seiyu lunges, pinching her enemy's cheeks with a ton of force and anger. While pulling her face, the nerd demands to know why she's suddenly trying so hard to mess with them. Freaking out over the physical fight, the student begs his classmate to let go of the freeloading guest. Breaking up the brawl, the alien warrior defends her new friend, making the whole situation even worse. The bodyguard demands respect, reminding them that the bruised girl is an important person to the human. Hearing that innocent speech, the fake friend looks down, hiding a calculating look. Giving in to peer pressure, the studious girl lets go of the girl's face and steps back, super annoyed. With the mood completely ruined, Seiyu decides to bounce, and her friend offers to walk her back. Hyped for a walk, the traveler invites the classmate but gets turned down because she's too tired. Before walking out the door, our MC strictly demands the intruder doesn't burn the house down while he's gone. Walking down the dark street, Seiyu quietly thinks about the messy history between those two. Even knowing the ex-delinquent went to school with him forever, the real reason she bullied him is a total mystery. Diving deep into her own memories, the student with glasses fondly remembers their very first meeting. On that day a long time ago, a tiny Amamiya gently offered some food to the crying little girl. That simple act of kindness in the park was all it took for her to fall head over heels for him. Time jumps forward, showing that the young guy was the first person in the world to ever show her any attention. In a memory from the school hallway, the nerdy kid is strolling chill, holding his textbooks. Suddenly, a super sweet-looking young Nanju pops up, asking where he's headed. Smiling bright, the girl mentions she was also going to the library and decides to tag along. The scene shifts to the quiet study zone, where the duo reads together while Seiyu watches them from a distance. Trying to make conversation, the popular girl curiously asks about the tough topic in her classmate's book. Acting all goofy, she shows him her phone screen, trying to link his astronomy stuff to their zodiac signs. Sticking to his logic, our MC adjusts his glasses, stating that those horoscopes have zero scientific proof. He points out the massive flaws in the constellation drawings, leaving his companion super frustrated. Completely embarrassed by the nerd correction, she looks away, grumbling that that wasn't the point at all. Bouncing back, Nanju asks with real curiosity why he spends his days obsessed with stars. The guy admits his dream job, but quickly shushes her when another student glares at them. Annoyed by being cut off so fast, the student pouts, leaning in close to her target. Ignoring library rules, she gets right in his face, demanding to know just one more thing. In a quiet whisper, the young girl asks which high school he's planning to apply to next year. The nerd drops the name of an elite academy, shocking his classmate because of how insane the entry exams are. Flashing a confident smile, he swears he needs to get in to make his dream a reality. The kid's genuine determination leaves the young admirer totally captivated in silence. Moved by his goal, she makes a dead serious internal choice about her own future. From that day on, the popular girl started pulling all-nighters, grinding her studies hardcore all by herself. Time skips to the moment the young girl opens an envelope, shaking from pure nerves and anxiety. An explosion of joy takes over when she confirms she actually passed the brutal entrance exam. Holding the official elite school paper, she celebrates her huge win of finally being able to follow him. But her happiness is cruelly shattered when a man's hand burns her newly earned certificate. Collapsed on her dark floor at home, the student cries in pain while her deadbeat dad mocks her hard work. Her mom walks in crying, blaming her daughter for getting into an expensive prep school and demanding unrealistic tuition money. Shocking the girl, her mom hands her a thick stack of cash, telling her to calm down. With her face completely messed up from abuse, the sick woman smiles, swearing she'll cover everything. In a tragic, crazy breakdown, the older lady promises that taking these beatdowns will pay her school fees. Overwhelmed by absolute despair, Nanju grips the bloody bills, screaming that she can't take this anymore. In the middle of this dark nightmare, Nanju reaches her hand out, mentally begging Amamiya to save her. The illusion shatters when she sees the guy waving and giving a super sweet smile to someone else. Totally dazed by the sudden scene, the girl's eyes go wide, having no clue what's happening. Watching the happy duo walk down the hall, the rejected girl demands to know who the Four Eyes is. She notices, bothered, that the student's face looks way different and literally lights up when he smiles like that. Consumed by jealousy while doing her makeup, the young girl gets pissed off, realizing he never smiled at her that way. Furious over the rejection, Nanju focuses on her own look, swearing she's way hotter than her rival. Taking out her anger in the hallway, the popular girl accidentally bumps into the new girl, knocking her down. With zero empathy for the fall, the bully stomps hard on the book dropped on the school floor. Covering her mouth with obvious fake shock, the bully apologizes, pretending it was just a clumsy mistake. Seiyu tries to pick up her stuff while cowering, as her rival feels a deep hatred for this plain human. Biting her thumb in rage, the dark-hearted girl swears she's never gonna forgive that meddling classmate. Sitting all alone in the classroom, she gets caught off guard by a sketchy group of students rolling up. The gang of delinquents approaches, gassing up her looks and offering to start a new friendship right there. Looking at the criminals, Nanju finally sees the perfect chance to put her toxic plan into motion. Flashing a creepy smile, the student drops her name, officially sealing the dark pact. Later on, Nanju corners Seiyu in an empty alley while the victim cries, not understanding why she's being targeted. Laughing like an absolute psycho, the blonde claims the new girl has been acting way too cocky lately. With a threatening glare, the bully accuses the girl of hitting on guys even though she's so ugly. The gang of delinquents laughs at the humiliation, but a desperate shout calls out to the victim in the alley. Amamiya comes sprinting down the dark alley, interrupting the group's cowardly beatdown. Panting from the run, the guy explains he came looking for her since she never showed up to their hangout spot. He instantly recognizes the popular girl standing there and asks in shock what she's doing hanging with these thugs. Giving him zero time to defend himself, one of the criminals points a finger, ordering the nerd to step up too. Tossed onto the dirty ground, our MC is handed a brutal beatdown while the ex-delinquent narrates her own downfall. The attacker smiles sadistically, hyped about wrecking the loser, while Nanju reflects on her one absolute truth. With a hollow, dark stare, the blonde silently blames Seiyu for bringing all this disaster into their lives. The nerdy girl cries curled up in a ball while her enemy claims everything would be different if she hadn't interfered. Nanju pictures a perfect timeline where she and our guy would be together and happy if the new girl just vanished. With her mind completely consumed by obsession, she declares the boy belongs to her alone and she won't put up with pests. Wrapped in the parasite's purple energy, the girl promises she won't let the redhead alien steal him either. Chilling comfortably in the guy's bed, the young girl watches the meteor shower streak across the dark sky. In an isolated spot, a heavy combat boot viciously stomps on the head of a downed alien freak. The galactic cop sighs in annoyance while crushing the monster, complaining that too much trash is invading Earth. Adjusting her shades, the supervisor grumbles that dealing with all these space bugs is turning into a massive headache. Suddenly, a blinding flash tears through the dark sky, instantly grabbing the lethal agent's full attention. Smiling, hyped for a real challenge, the cop declares that a seriously strong threat just touched down on the planet. Once the weekend hits, Amamiya wakes up with his eyes closed, hyped for a well-deserved day off at home. Enjoying the soft morning light, the student admits he thought he'd finally get to chill in peace. But the dream turns into a nightmare when he realizes the two freeloading girls are crushing him in his own bed. Waking up with an annoyed jump, the guy kicks the intruders out, demanding to know how they even got in there. Rubbing her eyes, still half asleep, the blonde makes up a lie that she was too scared to sleep alone on the couch. Completely oblivious, the redhead warrior laughs, claiming she only hopped in because the other two were already there. Shaking the kid violently, the space combatant demands he get up right now and cook breakfast. Surprising the exhausted homeowner, Nanju hops up full of energy and volunteers to make the morning meal. Laying on the charm, the blonde argues that paying him back in food is the least she can do since she's crashing there for free. In no time, the skilled girl serves up a table packed with beautiful, mouth-watering dishes for the squad. Drooling, Shiho gets super hyped, while the guy praises the unexpected cooking skills of his houseguest. A sad memory of her abusive dad flashes quickly, but Nanju plays it off, saying she's just been cooking since she was a kid. The alien warrior aggressively attacks her meal, hyping up the insane flavor of this earth food. Taking a huge bite, the kid approves of the seasoning, realizing it's been forever since he had a home-cooked meal like this. The chef smiles, loving the praise, until our MC notices a very important detail on the table. Staring at the massive pile of fried food, he instantly asks where she got all these expensive ingredients from. The story cuts to the house's fridge, which was completely gutted to make this massive feast. Holding nothing but a single sad green onion, the student goes pale as the financial disaster hits him. Panicking, he does the math and cries internally because his dad's allowance isn't hitting his account for days. Accepting the total loss, the young guy asks his redhead partner to hit the grocery store with him as soon as they finish eating. Keeping up her helpful act, the ex-delinquent offers to tag along and help carry the groceries. The host stammers a thank you, but quickly feels suspicious about the former villain's sudden sweet and helpful vibe. Sipping her drink calmly, the blonde mentally celebrates managing to sleep and eat right next to her target. Enjoying her tea with her eyes closed, the human feels like all her biggest wishes are finally coming true. But the parasite's dark voice echoes furiously in her head, demanding they steal the power right now before the Galactic Union shows up. The entity promises to help delete the alien bodyguard so Nanju can have the guy all to herself. A little while later, the trio of students finally makes it to the local supermarket to restock. Running down the packed aisles, the warrior from Misha is completely mind-blown by all the Earth products. Focused on saving cash, our MC checks the shopping list, trying to snag every single discount in the store. Totally clueless, the redhead tries to take a bite out of a sealed package, forcing the kid to scold her. The distraction is cut off by a sudden announcement over the store speakers, grabbing everyone's attention. The announcer hypes up a 30-minute flash sale, making the guy panic so he doesn't miss the deal. With zero time to lose, Amamiya bolts, sprinting desperately through the crowd and leaving the confused girls in the dust. Trying to keep up with the human speed, the space traveler gets shoved hard by a rushing shopper. Pissed at the disrespect, the hero morphs her hand into a lethal claw, ready to take the rude earthling out. Hashizora's serious warning echoes in her head, reminding her of the absolute rule not to hurt anyone unless she's 100 sure. Swallowing her rage, the warrior cancels the brutal magic, but suddenly gets hit with a massive dizzy spell. Instantly losing all the strength in her body, the alien collapses, completely out cold in the middle of the busy aisle. Standing in the chaotic crowd, Amamiya looks back looking super worried and calls out to the blonde girl. Holding the knocked-out alien, Nanju asks in a calculating tone if they are friends, and the redhead groggily nods without realizing what's up. Taking advantage of the weak moment, the host climbs on top of her fallen enemy, planning to inject her own dark energy to completely hijack her. The parasite angrily remembers their last brutal clash, where she took a humiliating beatdown from the fiery hero. But seeing the warrior's guard totally dropped, the ex-delinquent gets ready to strike perfectly with zero chance of being blocked. With her face dangerously close, the blonde leans in while the traveler mutters her fake friend's name, totally defenseless. Wasting no time, the villain lands a deep kiss on the warrior, starting to dump her corrupted essence straight into the other girl's body. The dark energy invades the protector's system, making her eyes go wide in pure shock as she realizes the girl's true intention. The alien system completely crashes and she passes out, while the parasite pulls back with a smirk, announcing the job is done. Holding up the weight of the unconscious girl, the host listens to the evil entity cheer over the absolute success of their dirty plan. Far away from them, the guy sighs in relief, carrying a massive stack of bento boxes down the supermarket aisle. Super happy about the steal he just scored, the student skips along celebrating the epic savings of the day. He calculates that the food will last them days, but stops confused when he spots the blonde standing all alone in the middle of the store. Holding the heavy groceries, our MC asks why his classmate is by herself and looks around for his redhead partner. Faking a panic attack, the liar points far away, making up a story that the alien smelled something delicious and took off running like a maniac. The guy goes into full panic mode over the absurd news, and the parasite quickly suggests they split up to find the runaway. The search leads the human into the dark, quiet backstock room of the supermarket, where he peeks around suspiciously trying to find a clue. Walking slowly through the packed shelves, the kid wonders if his starving partner really hid in this creepy isolated spot. While he keeps calling out the redhead's name like an innocent kid, dozens of shadow tentacles start sprouting silently right behind him. Unable to react, the student gets grabbed and completely tied up by the evil ropes, while the villain's voice echoes out, celebrating her win. Showing off her corrupted aura, Nanju flawlessly controls the dark wires, announcing that the moment they've been waiting for is finally here. Flashing a sadistic smile and glowing eyes, the host declares with a sick obsession that the human belongs 100 to her now. In a park far from there, the sound of a beer can popping open cuts through the quiet, chill night. The space supervisor is chilling in her workout gear, taking a big gulp of her cold drink and soaking up her time off. Sitting comfortably on the bench, the cop sighs happily, hyping up how awesome drinking outside on the weekend is. She thinks about how exhausting her Earth job is, but gets interrupted by a threatening voice calling her name from the shadows. A mysterious white-haired woman walks up, trash-talking the easy life the rogue agent has been living on this planet. The space cop glances over her shoulder and quickly puts two and two together, realizing this is the unwanted guest from last night. Staring down the intruder named Pommel, the supervisor listens to the rookie demand answers on why she ghosted her kill orders from HQ. Flashing furious red eyes, the newcomer aggressively asks if hanging out with Earthlings completely melted the officer's brain. Assessing the betrayal, the invader in white decrees that she's gonna have to wipe the Earth clean and delete her rogue coworker. Back in the dark stockroom, our MC groans in pain, mentally complaining that the shadow ropes are choking the life out of him. Using his side vision, the kid tries to figure out if this absolute monster movie is really the work of the ex-delinquent human. Staring at the girl's creepy smile in the dark, he's totally shook, remembering that the parasite got evicted from her body already. Right then, an old childhood memory floods the human's mind, showing the little blonde playing hide-and-seek with a super sweet smile. In the flashback, the little girl finds his hiding spot in a cardboard box, radiating the pure, innocent joy of those old days. The proud kid bragged that she knew all his moves, proving she used to be an incredibly bright and happy kid. Time jumps to high school, where the popular student always greeted him super warmly in the school halls. The guy remembers she was extremely curious and friendly, always starting conversations about him going to the library. That happy image violently clashes with her dark phase when she started ghosting him, bringing up the painful question of what caused the flip. Trapped and cornered in the present, the student analyzes his doomed situation, thinking about a tragic theory regarding the villain. He mentally admits he might have just turned a blind eye to reality, only seeing the nice version he wished was real. Our MC regrets never actually trying to find out the real reason behind her change, settling for the excuse that she just turned bad. Eaten up by guilt, he realizes he ignored his old friend's pain while he was busy surrounding himself with valuable new friends. The image of the ex-delinquent left all alone and bruised on the school floor weighs insanely heavy on the hero's conscience. The guy sadly concludes that if he had just reached out sooner, she never would have been corrupted by this freak show again. With a look full of pure remorse, the human genuinely apologizes for the neglect that ruined his old classmate's life. The apology totally shatters the parasite's sadistic act, making her hesitate, completely confused by the target's empathetic move. Suddenly, the possessed girl grabs her head, letting out a groan of agony as a sharp pain spikes through her brain. The evil aura violently flickers, and the villain's eyes go wide in shock as she feels an immeasurable power waking up around her. Taking advantage of the enemy being distracted, the guy tries to break free but freezes when he feels an insanely oppressive energy, instantly knowing it's not the space cop. Far away from the market, Pommel unleashes a terrifying blue aura, proving she's an incredibly op threat that just invaded the planet. Condensing destructive magic in her hands, the new enemy decrees that insubordination will cost the rogue supervisor her special rank. Showing zero fear, Leet crushes her empty can, flexing absolute disrespect for the galactic position that held her down. Radiating contained fury under the street lamp, the Earth agent raises her hand, prepping a very clear answer for her rival. Using human finesse, the officer flips the bird, telling the intruder to go to hell and declaring her total freedom. The white-haired alien blinks, totally confused, unable to translate the Earthling's rude hand gesture. Ignoring the language barrier, the invader figures the rebel chose a game over instead of totally submitting. Firing a colossal pillar of blue energy, the executioner sentences her ex-coworker to instant deletion right in the middle of the park. Bathed in the fatal light of the instant kill attack, the supervisor just lowers her head, waiting for the mind-blowing impact of the enemy magic. A brutal explosion eats the entire area, while Pommel acknowledges the insane power level her opponent used to have back in the day. Justifying her rushed attack, the alien claims she had to delete the traitor before she could pop her time reversal magic. But with an insanely fast teleport, Leet pops up right behind the executioner and lands a massive punch, catching the enemy totally off guard. The attacker stumbles, stunned by the hit, completely refusing to believe the rebel survived the annihilating blast. Recovering her hostile stance, the invader summons more cosmic lightning, warning that the fight just got totally serious. The executioner charges with a frontal blast, but the supervisor effortlessly slides away, mocking how slow the strike was. Completely humiliated by the other girl's agility, Pommel lets out a frustrated growl after missing yet another lethal push. Keeping a safe distance, the invader angrily demands to know what the rebel's actual plan is, dodging around like that. Flexing her confidence, the galactic cop brags about her power to rewind time in short bursts to create the perfect openings. The assassin points a finger, ruling that cheap tricks don't matter because the gap in their magic reserves is an absolute joke. Promising to wipe the smirk off her rival's face, the executioner is suddenly cut off by a sarcastic chuckle from the Earth supervisor. Laughing at the enemy's nerves, Leet points out how pathetic it is to see the high command shaking in their boots over losing the primordial energy. Summoning her bright emerald magic, the defender clearly states that any effort from the Union here is totally pointless. The answer cuts to a visual of the redhead hero protecting the human, revealing that the Misha survivor is the real ace in the hole. It finally clicks for the invader, and her eyes go wide, terrified as she deduces that the redhead was the one who wiped out the Union's previous hitman. The platinum-haired girl claims the Union can only travel between star systems because they stole Misha's advanced tech. Right after, the executioner asks what would happen if they simply blew the entire Earth to pieces. She predicts the debris would scatter across the universe and the target would run away in the chaos, escaping exactly like last time. Leet nods thoughtfully, admitting that tracking and chasing someone across space would be an incredibly annoying job. With that, the supervisor realizes why she was sensing another mystery presence so close to the primordial energy. Pommel decides they need to eliminate the alien bodyguard first, while the cop states the executioner is next on the chopping block. Far away, Amamiya is still completely trapped inside a dark cocoon in the middle of the locked supermarket stockroom. The possessed leader celebrates her win, promising the kid will be all hers the second they finish this job. Planning to toss the human into space, the villain is suddenly cut off by a loud metallic crash echoing through the warehouse. Super pissed about the interruption, Nanju whips her head around, demanding to know who dared to ruin her moment. The two aliens bust into the warehouse, wrecking the door, and the white-haired girl decrees that the blonde is definitely not from Misha. Sensing the crushing energy from earlier, the parasite shakes with fear and stutters the executioner Pommelhaut's name with total respect. Pommel mocks the creature's struggle to even form a complete sentence and decides to check out what kind of primitive beast it is. With zero effort, the invader in white grabs the possessed girl by the collar to examine the monster up close. Staring down her prey, she quickly deduces that it's a soft-bodied parasite species that specializes in mind control. The executioner exposes the creature, calling it a level 1 criminal, and finding it pathetic that it needs to use some random human to survive. Keeping her prey pinned, the white-haired woman states she can feel the primordial power coming right from inside the cocoon. Looking at the floating shadow prison, the space assassin sarcastically asks if that handiwork was the parasite's doing. With a terrifyingly bright eye, Pommel demands to know what the creature's goal was, leaving Nanju paralyzed with panic. Dropping the blonde on the floor, the invader declares that whatever genius master plan they had ends the second she arrives. Flashing a lethal smile, the white-haired girl even thanks the monster for tying the target up so perfectly, making the extermination way easier. The possessed human's eyes go wide and she mumbles in confusion, trying to process the word extermination coming from the top brass. The cosmic assassin summons devastating blue magic in her hands, making the girl realize she's actually going to take Amamiya out. Desperate, Nanju asks if she isn't planning to steal the power for herself, but the parasite warns her that disobeying is a guaranteed game over. Pommel fires a brutal annihilation beam at the shadow prison, while the blonde screams, demanding her promised reward of keeping the guy. The monster declares it's way too late to save him, warning that the executioner will delete them too if they try to fight her. Watching the fatal light tear across the warehouse, the young girl regrets that the student's power and life will be totally thrown away right here. The memory of the guy's sweet smile floods the human's mind, making her face the harsh reality that he's gonna die in seconds. Fighting off the alien's mind control, the girl forces her own body to move, swearing she will never let a tragedy like this happen. Breaking the mental hijack, Nanju announces she let the creature do whatever it wanted before, but now she is calling the shots for her own body. The blonde charges straight at the magic beam, screaming that she's not gonna sit back and accept this nonsense as the attack closes in on the cocoon. Trapped in the dark, Amamiya's eyes go wide in shock as he hears his old classmate's voice rejecting that tragic ending. In an act of pure bravery, the human jumps right in the path of the destructive magic, taking the white-haired invader completely by surprise. Hearing the incoming sacrifice from outside, the student clenches his fists with extreme fury inside the alien prison. Throwing her arms open like a human shield, Nanju dives in front of the cosmic explosion, screaming at the top of her lungs for the attack to stop. The scene suddenly shifts to a freezing cold walk-in freezer, where a mystery hand reaches for a shelf. A colorful popsicle slips and whacks Shiho right on the head, making the girl groan in pain as she wakes up. Sprawled on a floor covered in frozen treats, the hero shivers, trying to process the freezing temperature of the room. The redhead warrior sits up on the icy floor, staring at the heavy metal doors and asking where the heck she ended up. Rubbing her bruised head, the alien grumbles, holding the ice cream that snapped her out of her blackout. Right then, a dark flash hits her brain, showing the silhouette of the ex-delinquent radiating a highly dangerous purple aura. Collapsed on the freezing tiles, the cosmic fighter finally remembers that bizarre moment when her fake friend kissed her at the grocery store. The flashback shows Nanju dragging her knocked-out body into the freezer, muttering that she didn't actually need to kill her. Putting the pieces of that dirty trap together, the redhead jumps up, furious to realize the human turned into a monster again. The Misha hero's eyes bug out in pure shock as she tries to figure out exactly when the enemy got her powers back. The warrior's mind replays the parasite's lying act, repeating the question of when the possession actually restarted. The image of the blonde handing her the chocolate bar at the hospital hits hard, showing how early the whole theater actually began. The memory of the villain wrapped in a towel after her shower confirms all her suspicions, making the alien realize she got totally played. Not understanding the enemy's master plan, the redhead sits on the boxes, wondering why the parasite didn't just take the free shot to delete her. The extreme cold attacks the space traveler's nose, forcing her to let out a massive sneeze that sparks a bit of magic fire. Hugging her own legs, the girl complains about the low temps and figures she hit 0% battery, leaving her unable to warm herself up. Looking around at the shelves and floor, the hero finally notices the insane amount of frozen sweets stocked up in there. Accepting her only available option, the Misha warrior rips open the popsicle, deciding this food is gonna have to act as her charger. With her eyes sparkling with pure joy, she takes a massive bite of the frozen treat, feeling the sugar rush recharge her strength. Outside the cold room, a supermarket worker pushes a hand truck, relieved that this is his final task for the day. The employee unlocks the heavy freezer door, muttering to himself that the ice cream stock is gonna last them a really long time. The guy swings the metal door wide open, and the hallway light reveals the alien sitting right in the middle of the freezing room. The redhead is caught red-handed with her cheeks stuffed full of food, while the stalker lets out a scream of pure terror at the intruder. The worker falls on his butt in shock, while the girl jumps up, totally startled by his sudden screaming. Celebrating her good luck, the hero takes off sprinting, mentioning she was gonna break down the wall with brute force but preferred saving her magic. Blowing past the fallen employee like a blur, the traveler announces her batteries are full and she needs to act fast. The hero's agile footsteps echo down the supermarket aisle as she bolts from the scene, leaving the worker completely speechless. Laser-focused on saving her VIP, the fighter angrily realizes the blonde never actually gave up on stealing the kid's power. The painful memory of the fake friendship request comes back, forcing the warrior to accept that all that kindness was just a disgusting lie. Back in the dark warehouse, Nanju keeps her arms wide, shielding the cocoon while screaming for the white-haired girl to cancel the attack. Showing absolutely no mercy, the assassin hits the human dead-on with the energy beam, pulling a sharp scream of agony from her. The cosmic impact ruthlessly crushes the possessed girl's body, making her groan in pain while the supervisor just watches. The blue explosion consumes almost everything around it, flexing the absurd level of lethal force the Galactic Union sent to Earth. Smoking from the heavy battle damage, the ex-delinquent collapses onto the wrecked concrete floor, completely broken, whispering her trapped target's name. Miraculously, a blue magic shield pops up out of nowhere around the downed girl, totally surprising the celestial invaders. The dark cocoon starts cracking, shooting out intense lightning, proving that the student's hidden power woke up just to defend the human. Ignoring the sudden shield, the executioner just dusts off her hands, stating she neutralized the threat and saved the universe from danger. But out of nowhere, the human jumps up and charges forward roaring with rage, catching the platinum assassin completely off guard. Crying from the pain and hatred, the young girl rushes in while the parasite itself screams in panic inside her head, totally unable to control the host body. The monster figures out in terror that it's never seen a host fight back this hard, and Nanju runs blindly with rage, promising to take the cosmic enemy down. Pomelhout points her glowing finger, officially ordering the deletion of the criminal and her host. The shadow parasite loses its mind in total panic seeing the incoming attack. Nanju dodges the energy beam at the very last millisecond, realizing the blast would have punched right through her body. The executioner watches coldly, mocking how the girl slithered out of the way like a snake. Prepping more blue magic, the white-haired alien warns her that fighting back is just a huge waste of time. Firing a lethal shot, the invader promises that even trying to face her means it's already game over. A massive cloud of dust kicks up from the violent impact on the warehouse floor. Sprawled on the ground, the blonde looks up totally shook that she didn't get hit. Shiho shows up holding the girl in her arms, calling her name looking a little awkward. Staring at the scene, Pomelhout asks, super annoyed, how long that Misha survivor has been faking it. The redhead warrior shoots daggers at the assassin, demanding to know who the heck she even is. Flexing her authority, the woman introduces herself as a union executioner and tags the blonde as a wanted criminal. Holding her threatening stance, the white-haired agent locks her sights straight on the possessed girl. The officer orders the hero to back off immediately, threatening to delete her too if she stays in the crossfire. Refusing to budge an inch, Shiho screams that she'll never forgive her if she lays a single finger on her friend. Hearing that hardcore defense, Nanju whispers her savior's name, totally moved. The executioner laughs at the word friendship, mocking that the redhead only traveled all this way just to steal power. Right then, the black parasite detaches from the blonde's body and slithers away, announcing it already drained the energy. Flashing a cocky smile, the warrior questions the monster's flex with a ton of sarcasm. Igniting her arm with intense flames, she cuts off the assassin's boring corporate speech about rules and surrendering. Pomelhout freezes mid-sentence, completely caught off guard by the sudden rush. Charging in like a flaming bolt of lightning, the alien doubles down, screaming that the human is her friend. The invader dodges the acrobatic kick, dropping a warning that the monster and the host have already hit a point of no return. Catching the opening in her movement, the white-haired girl counters, landing a heavy blow on the redhead warrior. Skidding across the dirty floor, the hero hears her rival announce that the only option left is to completely obliterate the girl along with it. Down on the warehouse floor, the Misha fighter desperately tries to talk her out of that cruel death sentence. Ice cold and calculating, the officer raises her glowing hand, reminding her she already gave a very clear warning. Showing zero mercy, the executioner aims her lethal magic, ready to wipe them both out in one shot. But the assassin's cocky look turns into pure shock when she feels the primordial energy still pulsing. Confirming her theory, the redhead warrior flashes a slick smile, totally mocking the other girl's overconfidence. The white-haired invader whips around, terrified to realize her last attack didn't even scratch the target. A massive purple glow explodes in the warehouse, tearing the shadow cocoon apart with brute force. The two girls cover their faces from the blinding flash, while the blonde mutters the guy's name in relief. Shattering the dark bindings, the human pops out wrapped in an insane amount of glowing cosmic energy. The student lands heavily on the concrete floor, radiating a crushing primordial power all over the room. Despite the epic breakout, the kid groans in pain, feeling like every muscle in his body is completely locked up. Feeling the heat of the incoming danger, the guy knows he has to bounce ASAP if he wants to survive. Slicing through the tension, the white-haired executioner charges in flying, firing a lethal beam straight at the girls. Staring down an instant game over, the ex-delinquent lets out a high-pitched scream of panic with nowhere to run. An emerald blast sweeps the zone with an ear-splitting impact, launching debris everywhere. The assassin touches down gracefully, trash-talking the redhead warrior for trying so hard to pull off useless tricks. The smoke clears, showing that the destructive magic was completely blocked before it could even touch the victims. With a glare full of blind rage, the student defends his friend, screaming that she is not some primitive creature. Using pure brute strength, the human manages to parry the cosmic attack, violently deflecting the energy away. The MC's eyes glow brightly in a golden hue, proving he just took total control of the situation. Wrapped in a mystic aura, Amamiya wonders if he's still trapped, remembering getting hit by a flash of light. Staring at his own hands, he thinks the vibe feels super weird, but notices he can finally move freely again. The lethal glow catches his eye, and he instantly realizes Nanju is in extreme, life-threatening danger. Jumping in surprise, the kid also spots the redhead alien sprawled on the ground, totally defenseless right near the blonde. Panicking over the disaster that's about to drop, the guy tries to force himself to do something to save them. The student hesitates when he sees the cosmic executioner's brutal power, remembering that even his warrior partner got wrecked. Holding out his shaking hand, the human feels awful for being so weak, until the word power echoes in his brain. The memory about the absolute primordial energy hiding inside him clicks like a light bulb. Gripping his own glowing chest, he starts freaking out, admitting he has absolutely no idea how to use this stuff. Terrified that his friends are about to get wiped out, the guy hardens his glare, swearing he has to try no matter what. His genuine desire to protect them makes the human's chest shine like a pulsing star right in the middle of the warehouse. Running purely on protective instinct, he thrusts his glowing hand out, screaming for the girls to watch out. Leaping right into the enemy's line of fire, our MC triggers a massive purple explosion, completely stonewalling the full attack. The white-haired assassin halts her strike midair, turning her head absolutely shook by the sudden block. The gigantic shockwave blasts the invader backward, effortlessly canceling out her destructive magic. The executioner drags her boots across the busted concrete, barely managing to stop herself from flying further. The force of the wind knocks the blonde girl right onto her butt, making her let out a surprised yelp. The alien warrior also gets blown over by the insane impact, grumbling as she smacks against the dirty floor. Staring at the kid, the white-haired girl figures this bizarre anomaly just used the distraction to break himself out. Worried, the hero asks if his downed friend is okay, and she just sighs his name, super relieved. Whipping his head around fast, he checks if the redhead took any heavy damage, getting a thumbs up from her. Flashing a cruel smile, the assassin acknowledges his level up, but promises she's just gonna delete him again with zero effort. Knowing the massive gap in their lethal firepower, the Misha fighter jumps up, yelling for the human to run for his life right now. Instead of falling back, the guy grabs the warrior tight, admitting he has no clue how to control this force by himself. The touch transfers the primordial energy straight into the alien, making her face light up with pure shock. Watching the intimate power transfer, the ex-delinquent goes into panic mode, begging him to stop doing that. The galactic officer narrows her eyes instantly, sensing a massive shift in the vibe around them. Without any warning, another annihilating beam rips through the warehouse air, aiming ruthlessly at the linked duo. The blonde's eyes go wide and she lets out a desperate scream, trying to warn the heroes about the fatal shot. Overflowing with her newly acquired power, Shiho holds out her bare hand and completely blocks the enemy magic like it's nothing. Tanking the lethal attack with just her hand, Shiho lets out a groan of pain from the effort. Seeing that, Amamiya screams the alien's name, completely terrified. Pomelhout furiously demands to know how they dare try to transfer the primordial force, like that right in front of her. Standing right behind her, Amamiya firmly declares he will never let the executioner pull off this cruel goal against them. The space assassin touches her face coldly, promising that this time she's going to permanently delete all of them without failing. With that, the invader's vision starts glitching, forming a terrifying vortex while she screams threats of total extermination. Confused by the heavy pressure in the room, Nanju feels something weird right then. The parasite panics, yelling for her to grab onto something ASAP. A colossal black hole packed with razor-sharp teeth violently rips open in midair, swallowing everything nearby with crushing gravitational pull. Staying laser-focused, Pomelhout watches the destruction kick off through her eye, which is now corrupted by dark magic. Caught completely off guard by the sudden suction, Amamiya and Shiho start floating. The human freaks out, having no idea why he's flying. Unable to keep their footing on the warehouse floor, the heroes lose their grip and get dragged straight toward the deadly vacuum. In that critical split second, thick shadow tentacles shoot out of the ground and grab the student's arm with insane force. The kid calls out to his ally, realizing Nanju is using her own powers to anchor everyone to the busted floor. Cheering the save, the parasite tells her not to let go. Exhausted, Nanju says she's gonna hold the enemy down and demands they figure out a way to stop the suction. Nanju blushes like crazy, admitting she hates having to do this, but accepts the sacrifice if it means transferring the power. She pulls the guy close, demanding he do exactly what he tried earlier, totally confused while floating. Amamiya has no idea what his friend is asking for. Completely red in the face, Nanju screams at the top of her lungs, ordering the student to kiss her right now. Watching the romantic screaming match in the middle of a boss fight, Pomelhout judges them hard, asking if they seriously think that's gonna work. The galactic executioner cranks up the black hole's power, declaring she would never let such a ridiculous strat happen on her watch. With the gravity doubled, Shiho gets violently dragged across the floor, complaining about the pain and noticing the enemy's insane power spike. The friction isn't enough to hold the warrior anymore. The alien yells in panic that she's officially getting sucked into the center of the vortex. Eaten up by her own destructive magic, Pomelhout lets out a strained groan while the cosmic anomaly ruthlessly devours everything in its path. Nanju lets out a sharp scream as all three of them keep free-falling straight into the dark magic abyss. Desperate, the blonde asks how far they're going to fall. The guy realizes there's an entire dimension hidden inside that alien's eye. Assessing the mess, the student figures the gravity in there is so crushing that nothing can escape. His partner scolds him, asking if this is really the time for a science lesson. A bright light pops up at the bottom of the dark tunnel. She realizes in absolute terror that they're just going to keep falling into the unknown. The shadow parasite speaks up in a panic, warning that if they don't get out of there fast, they're all gonna end up completely deleted. The host has zero clue what the warning means. The creature explains that the gravity pressure at the center of the abyss is insane. Because of it, their bodies are going to get stretched further and further until they snap. The crushing force kicks in immediately, tearing the girl's skin and sending drops of blood flying through the dark air. Feeling the crazy pressure rip her clothes, Shiho gasps that she needs to turn her body to stone so she doesn't get shredded alive. The pain hits a breaking point, and the human screams as the air gets squeezed out of her lungs. The hero turns around in a panic, calling his friend's name mid-fall. The gravity slams into the guy with full force, making him scream as he feels all his muscles being violently pulled apart at once. Right next to him, the alien warrior also groans in pain, unable to defend herself, totally helpless. The student shouts his partner's name. But suddenly, the pressure on the kid's body completely vanishes. He focuses on the golden energy glowing in his chest and realizes the power just shielded him. Without thinking twice, he tries to reach out to pass this cosmic armor to the girls. The massive problem is that the distance makes any direct contact impossible. In that exact millisecond of heavy tension, a super risky idea pops into the student's head to try and save everyone's lives in there. With absolute urgency, he begs Nanju to hang in there and use her strength to pull him in. It's the only way he can pass on the survival buff. Holding his arms out steady, our MC gets ready to pull off the risky strat right in the middle of the deadly vacuum. Without hesitating, the girl uses her shadow wires to yank the classmate's body with everything she's got. The sudden jerk catches the guy completely off guard. Spinning in zero gravity, he complains about being super dizzy even while dazed. The human stays locked on the goal, calling out for his friend as he flies closer. Completely wiped out, the young girl pants and apologizes for the rough pull. She admits she still doesn't have much control over these bizarre alien powers. Seeing the urgency, the parasite decides to go rogue. The creature announces it's gonna jump out of the host's body to tie the two together in midair. But the monster drops a fatal warning about the plan. Leaving the human's body right now would cancel her protection entirely, making the situation way worse. Spitting out the dark tentacle, the ex-delinquent tells the creature to chill and shut its mouth. She promises she's gonna fix this mess herself. Radiating pure determination, the human channels every last drop of magic she has left into her wires to guarantee the perfect launch. In a super fast, coordinated move, the possessed girl slingshots the student's body straight toward the redhead alien who is still falling. Launched like a missile in the dark, our MC's eyes go wide, feeling the harsh jerk of the tentacle pulling at his waist. Down below, the Misha hero lets out an ear-piercing scream, feeling her own body giving way under the abyss's crushing pressure. Acting fast, the little shadow monster uses its own elastic reach to grab the student's collar and hit the brakes before the final crash. With a heavy thud, the human crashes right into the alien fighter, finally reaching her in the middle of the deadly freefall. The sudden closeness leaves them both completely frozen. Their faces are literally millimeters apart, lit up by the cosmic energy. Not wasting another precious second, the guy leans in and locks lips with the warrior, kickstarting the vital transfer of primordial energy. The intimate contact triggers an instant explosion of pure magic. The guy's golden force flows rapidly, healing all the damage caused by the gravity crush. Getting her strength back instantly, the redhead pulls away, blushing like crazy. She blinks in awe, feeling the lethal vigor flood back into her system. With the first rescue locked in, the black wires yank the hero violently backward. He nods in focus, announcing it's time to save the blonde. The shadow creature cuts off the maneuver instantly, telling the kid to stop. The monster states in a panic that it's already way too late to try anything. The brutal gravity takes its final toll. The creature reveals that the host's magic reserves have officially hit zero. The parasite warns that trying to pull her now would be straight-up suicide. The suction force would swallow the human's power and they'd all get crushed in the center. Plummeting all alone toward a game over, the young girl smiles, agrees, and tells them to run. The duo just watches in shock as their friend falls into the vacuum. Completely bruised up and accepting her tragic end, the ex-delinquent gives a genuine apology for stringing the guy along all this time. Hearing her final goodbye, the redhead warrior's brain instantly replays the fake friendship request the human made at the hospital. The next flashback shows the chill moment when the two of them shared a snack at the cafe table like totally normal girls. The memory zooms in on the blonde's sweet smile when she formally introduced herself. That moment sparked the alien's very first bond on Earth. The hero fondly remembers holding her hands with so much emotion. It was the first time she genuinely trusted a human down here. At the same time, the student remembers the massive breakfast spread. The incredible taste of the food she cooked is still fresh in his mind. Reliving those shared laughs at the table, the hero admits their time was way too short. He deeply regrets that the whole thing was just a big lie. With tears rolling down her bruised face, the young girl confesses she actually had a really fun time. She says thanks for the experience and asks for forgiveness one last time. Watching his companion get swallowed by the absolute darkness of the black hole, Amamiya screams her name, reaching his arm out in pure desperation. Furious at the cowardice, the human shoots the little monster a deadly glare. He screams at the top of his lungs, demanding the creature transfer the needed strength right now. Caught totally off guard by the temporary host's aggression, the parasite chokes in fear as it gets grabbed with insane force. The redhead fighter hugs the guy from behind to back him up. The creature goes into absolute panic, feeling their combined energy about to blow. Wielding the monster's stretchy body like an actual cosmic sledgehammer, the student winds up his arm, screaming at the top of his lungs along with his alien partner. The force of the makeshift throw is brutal, being used as a literal rescue rope. The parasite screams in terror, having no idea what this suicide play is about. The tentacle stretches out, tearing through the extreme gravity until it reaches the falling blonde. The hero shouts with absolute certainty that he would never leave a friend behind. The scene cuts drastically to the wrecked surface of Earth. The Platinum Executioner strolls calmly, declaring the cleanup a total success. Dusting off her dirty uniform, the invader grumbles about running late, but she arrogantly celebrates having perfectly deleted her targets. Turning her back on the smoking crater, the cosmic assassin says it's finally time to head home and drop the mission report. Suddenly, the officer's calm footsteps stop. She freezes in place, feeling a super bizarre vibration echoing right behind her. The alien's eye goes wide, showing instant tension. She mutters in confusion, asking herself what kind of threatening presence that is. Without any warning, a massive flaming arm violently bursts straight through the dimensional portal she just opened. The attack tears through space, catching the villain right in the face without an ounce of mercy. Blood flies everywhere while she goes into pure shock from the ambush. In an explosion of pure fire, the Misha warrior emerges from that lethal abyss, carrying both of her friends to safety, totally escaping the trap. The agonizing pain from the strike ripping her face open makes the Platinum Executioner let out a deafening, animalistic roar across the warehouse. Totally locked into the fight, the redhead hero shoots the enemy a flaming glare packed with pure killing intent. The alien slices through the sky, holding the student by the arm right below. He's holding the unconscious blonde while a ton of blood drips from her heavy injuries. The human's face is locked in furious, unbreakable determination. He survived the absolute worst-case scenario and has zero plans of letting the attacker walk away. With a heavy and agile impact, the Misha fighters' bare feet touch down on the broken concrete of the ruined battlefield. The second they land, the warrior carefully lets go of the duo. The guy drops to his knees, frantically checking the critical status of his fallen friend. The assassin steps back, covering the nasty wound on her face. She curses while panting, realizing she burned way more magic energy than she ever planned to. Staring down the surviving trio, the officer tries to make sense of the madness. She's mind-blown that they tanked the gravity and still managed to share the lethal force. The young guy hugs the unconscious human tightly. The villain mentally concludes that the primordial power is just too broken to let its user die that easily. Refusing to accept the L, the invader summons her blue magic at her fingertip. With absolute ice in her veins, she promises to delete all of them again with zero hesitation. A fatal blast drops from the sky, tearing through the air at lethal speed. The hero looks up, his eyes going wide in pure shock at the incoming attack. Before the cosmic energy can completely vaporize the duo, a pale hand pops out of nowhere, touching the ground and instantly canceling the destruction. The clash of magic creates an ear-splitting boom. The death beam is violently deflected away, revealing that Leet is the one who just saved them. Totally baffled by the fail, the white-haired girl lowers her hand. She grumbles in frustration that she clearly wasted too much magic healing the cut on her eye. Taking advantage of the miracle shield, the kid sighs in relief and slumps onto the concrete. He focuses all his attention on trying to wake up his injured classmate. Desperate over the mess they're in, Amamiya yells for Nanju to hang in there. With a dark look on her face, Shiho asks why everyone keeps trying to take what's hers, bringing up how they stole her planet first and now they want her guy. Surprised by the sheer audacity, the Platinum Executioner fires back, calling it a joke that the girl talks about the Earthling's power like she actually owns him. The assassin warns that the redhead isn't the only one hunting for this force, pointing out that the second the human matures, things are gonna get way worse. Breaking down the threat, Pomelhout claims everyone in the galaxy will try to claim this power for themselves, just like that wanted criminal hiding inside the Earth Girl did. The officer drops a serious warning. If some cosmic trash gets their hands on this energy, the entire universe is going to be plunged into an unmatched disaster all over again. For the white-haired agent, dealing with it once was already more than enough. so she officially decrees they are acting for galactic peace. Holding out her hand with absolute authority, the invader sentences that the dark energy must be permanently deleted, calling it the absolute law. She wraps up her speech by stating this is a direct order straight from the Galactic Union. Not giving a single crap about the corporate speech, the Misha warrior snaps back, asking what the hell any of that has to do with her. Pomelhout blinks, totally thrown off by the rebellious comeback, and asks what the girl just said. Overflowing with rage, the hero screams that she doesn't even have a place in this universe anymore, so caring about some galactic peace makes absolutely zero sense. The space assassin catches the grudge and mocks her, figuring out she's talking about her home planet Misha. Flashing a cynical smirk, the Platinum Girl realizes the survivor already knew the Union was the one who blew her world to pieces. Keeping up the toxic taunts, the executioner claims that if that's the case, the redhead should have just taken their deal from the very start. The officer clenches her fists, claiming the destruction of Misha was something her own people brought upon themselves, and tries to keep talking. But the redhead takes off flying through the air, absolutely disgusted, screaming about how the enemy has the nerve to spout such garbage. Right then, a painful memory hits, showing the little survivor curled up, remembering how her own parents totally abandoned her. The flashback zeroes in on the mean kids bullying her, proving the place was also packed with some truly awful people. But her teacher's sweet smile comforts her, making the girl admit that literally everyone she cared about lived on that planet. Charging in with a blazing arm, the hero attacks in a blind rage, screaming that that place was her one and only precious home. The violent strike smashes into the Platinum Girl's guard, while the warrior demands the assassin stop talking about her loss like it means nothing. Blocking the hit effortlessly, the executioner activates her own petrification on her arm. The woman in white explains that this high-tier tech resonates with the dimensional waves from Misha's core, making it an insanely overpowered ability. Holding a jagged piece of stone, the invader reveals that the master plan was to combo this with the Union's navigation tech. That way, they could build a civilization capable of freely jumping across galaxies, totally deleting the need for spaceships forever. Crushing the rock in her hand, she justifies that this is exactly why they asked for the core peacefully, but since they got denied, they had no other choice. The alien redhead's eyes overflow with pure hatred as she listens to the sick explanation. The assassin keeps going, trash-talking Misha's tech. Totally ice-cold, the officer states they had zero use for a useless race, so they just wiped out the population and took the core by force. Thanks to that core, the Union expanded its space turf and started taxing the hell out of other races, proving the girl's planet didn't just vanish by accident. Flexing a cruel smile, the white-haired girl declares that the redhead civilization actually did the universe a huge favor by getting completely wiped off the map. The rocks crumble under the hero's bare feet as absolute hatred boils in her veins. The Misha warrior's face is completely taken over by an uncontrollable, murderous rage. The cosmic assassin turns away looking bored, doubling down that if they had just taken the deal originally, the disaster would have been way smaller. With a sadistic tone, the invader concludes that the locals would have at least gotten to keep their pathetic lives. Totally consumed by anger, the fighter charges forward in a super-fast flaming dash. The executioner's eyes go wide in surprise, noticing that her opponent's speed just spiked to an absurd level out of nowhere. Letting out an ear-piercing battle cry, the alien redhead dumps every ounce of her grudge into the lethal strike. Throwing a wild flurry of punches, the hero mocks the word offer, screaming that they were planning to destroy the planet from day one. Pressured by the relentless rush, the officer defends herself and warns that she is officially done playing games. The warrior lands a flying kick coated in fire, declaring she is never going to accept losing anyone in her life ever again. Interrupting the combo, the platinum assassin counters with a heavy blow, swearing she won't let the girl just do whatever she wants. The invader's eye glows a terrifying color, signaling that she's about to go all out. With a quick, smooth move, Pomelhout summons an electric whip made of pure lethal energy. The dark attack catches the redhead dead on, violently whipping her body straight into the broken floor. Sprawled in the rubble, the Misha fighter groans in pain, taking the heavy damage from the overpowered hit. Right behind her, the Earthling also lets out a groan, trying to fight off extreme weakness. The kid grabs his head, figuring the sickness is a side effect of sharing so much power at once. He complains that his vision is totally blurry. Strolling up to her down prey, the Platinum Executioner calls her a filthy bug with absolute disgust. The assassin's body glows with cosmic magic as she declares she should have deleted every single survivor, the officer officially calls the final curtain for the last mission. Seeing the incoming execution, Amamiya screams in a panic, telling his partner to watch out for the fatal strike. Ignoring his own drained battery, the student runs forward, desperately trying to stop the tragedy however he can. But before the villain can fire, a bunch of shadow tentacles burst out of nowhere, violently tying her up. Caught completely off guard by the trap, the white-haired woman stutters in confusion, having no idea what just grabbed her. The hero holds up the blonde and realizes his friend is using the dark energy the parasite left behind. Totally baffled, the platinum girl notices the human is actively forcing that leftover alien power. Nanju screams the hero's name. Taking full advantage of the perfect distraction, the redhead warrior slams her hands on the ground, telling her rival never to sleep on Mish's tech. The executioner snaps the dark ropes easily, mocking that useless tricks won't hold her down for long. Flashing an evil smile in the shadows, the cosmic hero promises to show her just how terrifying that power can really be. The officer in white freezes in place, completely shook as she feels a brutal energy radiating from the ground. Standing tall right behind the assassin, the redhead warrior commands punishment to rain down from the sky. Overflowing with pure fire energy, Shiho summons the grand legacy of Misha with a look of absolute determination. A cosmic fire meteor drops ruthlessly toward the invader, lighting up the warehouse with pure destruction. The scene cuts back to the Dark Council, where one of the bosses angrily demands to know why they haven't received Leet's report on the target's deletion. The council member with the bird explains they sent high-speed transmissions, but the officer straight up ghosted them. Intrigued by the radio silence, the tentacle monster wonders if that weird planet is hiding some terrifying secret weapon. But the executioner's mind had already deduced a while ago that the lack of response was a massive red flag for high treason. Crossing her arms at the council meeting, the platinum girl stated that her rogue coworker must have gone through some drastic change, as it's the only logical answer. The bizarre multi-eyed freak immediately agreed, swearing a primitive world would never have the tech to actually fight back. With her left eye glowing bright, Pomelhout promised to travel there personally to execute both the traitor cop and the earthling at the same time. Snapping back to the fight in the present, the assassin looks up, staring at the colossal burning rock that's about to crush her. Sweating bullets in the face of her impending doom, the invader mutters in shock as she feels the sheer scale of that insanely overpowered attack. The magic meteor slams into the ground, triggering an apocalyptic explosion that sweeps the zone in a flash of unmeasurable brute force. The devastating hit melts the concrete floor, carving out a massive crater while the squad of heroes waits for the dust to settle. The student covers his face, shielding himself from the heavy wind generated by the absurd strike, letting out a gasp of pure shock. Shiho keeps her hands steady, guiding the very last bit of her destructive power. The flaming meteor's impact completely swallows the building in a colossal explosion. Slowly, the thick smoke begins to clear, revealing the totally ruined battlefield. Standing inside a protective ring of fire, a panting Amamiya asks if they actually managed to pull off the win. The Misha warrior steps out from behind the rubble, taking a deep breath after unloading the lethal attack. She gives a relieved nod, confirming that the threat seems to be officially deleted. Completely drained, the kid lets out a huge sigh of relief, figuring they're finally in the clear. But the peace doesn't last long, and he drops to his knees on the broken floor, totally out of gas. Startled by his collapse, the hero runs over to her partner, telling him to be really careful. Our MC coughs up a terrifying amount of blood, completely making a mess of his own clothes. Kneeling next to him, the redhead explains that sharing that much power back-to-back without being fully awakened was an insanely lethal move. Right then, a groan of pain cuts through the dust, grabbing the duo's attention. Amamiya calls out to his friend, seeing that she's finally waking up on the ground. Out of nowhere, the blonde grabs her own head and lets out an ear-piercing scream of pure agony. Caught off guard, the student is shook as he feels a super bizarre aura radiating from his classmate. The dark energy whips wildly through the air while the guy asks if that's the parasite's power. Echoing straight out of the dimensional portal, the creature cries, complaining that it got left behind in the subspace. The Misha warrior clears things up, saying the monster left a chunk of its own strength inside the girl when it bilayed. She points out that the ex-delinquent pushed her own body to the absolute limit to use that alien magic during the fall. The dark force keeps twisting violently, completely out of control, tearing up the floor. The fighter strictly explains that a normal human body could never handle that much cosmic energy. Tugging at one of the black wires, the hero figures out that during the possession, the monster kept the human's vitals balanced. But since she's back to being just a regular civilian, those leftover magic fumes are literally destroying her from the inside. The alien drops a serious red flag, swearing that if this keeps up, the girl is going to explode from the inside out. Totally horrified by the fatal warning, the student mumbles, trying to process the insane danger. Having zero clue what to do, our guy gulps hard, staring at the absolutely desperate situation. Watching his friend scream in non-stop pain, the hero declares they can't just leave her like this and begs for a way out. Gripping the wires tight, the cosmic partner reveals that there actually is a way to shut down this lethal meltdown. Desperate for the fix, the Earthling grabs the redhead's shoulders, demanding to know what needs to be done right this second. Surprised by how aggressive he's being, she looks away, clearly hesitating to drop the plan. Catching his breath, Amamiya asks if his own healing power could fix the girl's glitch. The hero angrily agrees, but tells him to focus on his own critical HP before trying any crazy stunts. She furiously warns him that if he transfers more life energy like that, he's actually going to get a real game over. Ignoring the extreme risk, the guy takes off running straight toward his friend who is still agonizing on the floor. Halfway there, one of the wild tentacles smashes into the human's chest with brutal force. Seeing the heavy hit, his cosmic partner screams his name in absolute panic. Even while taking damage, the student manages to close the gap and grabs the human's face with total resolve. Looking straight into the girl's panicked eyes, he calls her name, trying to pass on a little bit of calm. The hero thinks back to the dark era when the girl lost herself to crime and pushed everyone away. The flashback shifts to the peaceful days when she used to be super sweet. He admits to himself that the blonde always paid attention to him, even when nobody else cared that he existed. Feeling guilty for his own screw-ups, the kid wonders if their timeline would be different if he had just been there for her more. In an act of total sacrifice, the student kisses the human, transferring his primordial energy while mentally begging for her forgiveness. The intimate connection makes the golden light surge with insane force, completely crushing the dark aura on the spot. Feeling the pain vanish from her system, Nanju closes her eyes, finally catching a break in the middle of all that chaos. The initial shock fades and the blonde stares at her classmate's face, showing genuine surprise at what he just did. Completely drained of HP after the rescue, the hero falls backward, instantly passing out cold. The Misha warrior runs frantically through the rubble, screaming for her downed VIP. The kid's body hits the cracked concrete heavily and stays completely still. While the ex-delinquent watches in shock, the redhead rushes over, crying right next to the unconscious student. The scene takes a hard cut to a dark forest, where shaky footsteps crush the tall grass. The platinum assassin limps through the isolated woods, clicking her tongue in pure frustration over the fat L she just took. Missing an entire arm, the invader angrily admits she had to sacrifice the limb just to avoid getting deleted by the meteor. Gripping the nasty wound, the officer realizes that if she burns magic regenerating the arm, she won't have enough to warp back to the Union. Out of nowhere, a creepy, distorted voice calls the executioner's name from right behind her. Pomelhout freezes instantly, trying to place who that familiar vibe belongs to. The little shadow parasite pops out of a floating portal, nervously introducing itself to the boss. The woman asks suspiciously how a bottom-tier freak like that managed to survive the lethal gravity of the abyss. Giving a nervous chuckle, the creature explains its stretchy body saved it, and uses the chance to pitch a really weird deal. The villain stands frozen, hearing the little monster ask if she wouldn't want to fuse with it right then and there. Bleeding heavily, the platinum girl glares at the parasite with disgust, asking if this useless bug actually thinks it can control her. The monster denies it in a panic, swearing it just wants to be useful to the superior officer before it ends up dying out here. The invader looks down, coldly analyzing her own pathetic situation and her totally drained magic tank. Taking the sketchy deal, the woman admits that logically this creepy fusion isn't the worst idea. Holding the creature close to her face, the parasite vibrates with hype, unable to believe she actually agreed to the terms. Flexing its true evil motives, the slithering freak mentally cheers that it's finally going to hijack this overpowered body. Giving absolutely zero window for the possession, the executioner sinks her teeth in and violently rips a chunk out of the monster. Swallowed whole while still half alive, the creature goes into total panic, completely lost by the ultimate betrayal at the very last second. Finishing her bizarre snack, the villain wipes the corner of her mouth, radiating pure cruel satisfaction as she feels her new power kick in.